Chapter 2065. Before coming to Sky Lion Pass, Ji Tianxing had already understood the situation. The right deputy commander had died in battle, and the left deputy commander had taken over the power and was unwilling to send out troops. Ji Tianxing knew all of this. The mountain peak to the east where he was at was where the left deputy commander Yu Fu was stationed. The generals stationed on this mountain peak were all Yu Fu's trusted subordinates. The generals on the west mountain peak were all former subordinates of the right deputy commander. Although many of the generals had been bought over by Yu Fu in the past half a year. However, there were still many generals who were unwilling to submit to Yu Fu and become his lackeys. These people were either loyal to the right deputy commander, loyal to Holy Emperor Bai Shuang, or neutral. Now, Ji Tianxing saw that the west mountain peak was peaceful, and many generals were secretly watching. They had no intention of getting involved in this matter, and he could not help but nod his head secretly. The truth was just as he had expected, and the situation was becoming clearer. Now that things have gotten out of hand, it is impossible to cover it up. Yu Fu has achieved his goal, and it is time for him to appear. As for the generals stationed on the west mountain peak, they will most likely report this matter to Lu Baishuang and let her deal with it personally to prevent Yu Fu from acting arbitrarily. When Lu Baishuang appears personally, this matter should be over. Ji Tianxing silently calculated in his heart, and took another sip of tea. He sat in the sky, drinking tea amidst the clouds. Below him was a pile of ruins, and more than 100 generals were lying haphazardly on the ground, and more than 30 people were cursing. The two completely different scenes created a strong contrast, and it was unforgettable. Ji Tianxing had left an extremely deep impression on the soldiers who were hiding in the surroundings and secretly watching the battle. At this moment, in the palace deep in the mountain peak, a dazzling golden light shone. Swoosh! The golden light streaked across the sky and headed straight for the scout camp. In the blink of an eye, the golden light flew above the scout camp and stopped 100 meters in front of Ji Tianxing. The golden light dissipated and 9 figures appeared. The person in the lead was a white-haired old man wearing golden armor and a purple jade gilded green feather helmet. This person's body was thin and his appearance was unremarkable. However, his eyes were like pitch-black abysses, causing people to feel apprehensive when looking at them. Ji Tianxing did not need to guess to know that this white-haired old man was the left deputy commander Yu Fu. Of the 8 people behind Yu Fu, there were 4 black-clothed guards and 4 silver-armored generals. The strength of these 8 experts had all reached the 5th level of the Tribulation Passing Realm, and were all martial lord. They were originally not generals in the army, but Yu Fu's disciples and experts from various sections. They were recruited by him to work for him. The generals on the ruins were screaming in pain or cursing Ji Tianxing with righteous indignation. Suddenly seeing Yu Fu arrive, everyone's spirits were lifted, revealing a look of joy as they cheered. Great! Marshal Yu is here. Marshal Yu was indeed alarmed. That brat is dead for sure. General Yu has always been strict with his troops. Let's see how that brat can still be arrogant. Ji Tianxing, weren't you very arrogant just now? Didn't you boast that you would conquer the entire Heavenly Lion Pass? Let's see how you can still be arrogant now. Everyone, just wait for the good show. Marshal Yu will definitely cripple that brat and make him kowtow to apologize. At that time, that brat's face will be swept to the ground. Let's see if he still has the face to return to Luotian Mountain. Everyone is excitedly discussing, their words are filled with anticipation. Only by seeing Ji Tianxing being oppressed can the hatred in their hearts be dispelled. Yu Fu's face is gloomy, his brows are filled with anger. He stared at Ji Tianxing with a sharp gaze and shouted, "Brat! I don't care who you are, what's your origin and background? Today, you have behaved atrociously in Heavenly Lion Pass, injured more than 100 soldiers and destroyed the scout camp. These are all crimes worthy of death." His deep and vigorous voice, containing unquestionable majesty, resounded through the sky. Everyone on the mountain peak, including the tens of thousands of spectating soldiers, held their breaths and stared at the scene without blinking. Ji Tianqing looked at Yu Fu with a cold smile and said in a playful tone, "Deputy Marshal Yu, you really have good methods. The moment you appear, you put such a big label on me, but you didn't ask about my identity and purpose. You are so eager to convict me, aren't you a little too deliberate?" At this point, he pretended to be suddenly enlightened and said, "Oh, I almost forgot. I asked General Qin to inform you before, so of course you know my identity and purpose. So, you sent so many useless people to capture me. You are just deliberately humiliating me and framing me. Since that's the case, I don't mind introducing my identity and purpose in front of everyone." Ji Tianqing said these words in one breath without pausing, not giving Yu Fu a chance to interrupt. After he finished speaking, he took out a dark golden token and a luxurious letter from his spatial ring. He showed the token and letter to the surrounding people and announced in a solemn tone, "This seat is Ji Tianqing, the chief disciple of Luotian Mountain. I have come to Sky Lion Pass to participate in the battle and take up the position of Right Deputy Marshal under the orders of the Divine Master. It's a pity that a certain Deputy Marshal looked down on me and dared to disobey the Divine Master's orders and sent his subordinates to besiege this seat. Yu Fu, you actually dared to harm your comrades and murder the new Right Deputy Marshal so that you can monopolize the power? This seat needs an explanation from you." Hearing Ji Tianqing's words, the expressions of the tens of thousands of soldiers in all directions instantly changed. Countless people revealed looks of realization and started to discuss secretly. Heavens! This fellow was actually sent by Luotian Mountain to participate in the battle and take up the position of Right Deputy Marshal? How can this be? We didn't know anything about this beforehand. It can't be fake, right? He is so young and not a marshal saint, how can he be a deputy marshal? It can't be fake. If he faked the Divine Master's orders, that would be a heinous crime. It's over. Marshal Yu did not investigate clearly before sending everyone to attack. This won't end well. The many soldiers understood what Ji Tianqing meant. They guessed that Yu Fu deliberately sent people to humiliate him. Only now did everyone understand why Ji Tianqing wanted to cause trouble in the scout camp. It turned out that there was a reason for this. However, these soldiers were all Yu Fu's subordinate. Even if they understood, they did not dare to say it out loud. At the same time, Yu Fu's expression turned even gloomier. The cold light in his eyes turned sharper. Originally, he had been soaking in the hot spring in a secret room. When he heard his trusted guards reporting the news, he felt even more pleased with himself. The more trouble Ji Tianqing caused, the happier he was. This would prove that Ji Tianqing was guilty. At the same time, this would prove that Ji Tianqing was too impetuous and would not be able to accomplish much. He would not be a threat to Yu Fu. When the matter blew up and startled the entire Heavenly Lion Pass, Yu Fu calmly rushed over to deal with it. However, Yu Fu did not expect that Ji Tianqing was not stupid at all. It seemed like he had already planned this. They had just met, but Ji Tianqing took out a bunch of things in quick succession. He even took out his identity medallion and letters. Chapter 2066. Yu Fu had no choice but to re-evaluate Ji Tianqing. I thought he was a naive and arrogant hothead without any shrewdness. I didn't expect him to be prepared. Ben Shuai will have to use more methods. Yu Fu thought to himself as he looked at Ji Tianqing with an even colder gaze. Ji Tianqing, you keep saying that you came to Sky Lion Pass under the orders of the Divine Master. But Ben Shuai knows that Granny Long of Luotian Mountain sent you here. Your actions are equivalent to forging an oracle and blaspheming the Divine Master. This is an unforgivable crime, and your death is not to be regretted. Ji Tianqing glanced at him and said calmly, Deputy Commander Yu, don't forget that Luotian Mountain is the Divine Master's training ground. Granny Long guards Luotian Mountain and is the spokesperson of the Divine Master. Her decrees are not only approved by the Divine Master, they are also the orders of the Divine Master. Yu Fu frowned and stared at him with a sharp gaze. You are obviously twisting words and forcing logic. Ji Tianxing sneered. You are ignorant and inexperienced. You are deliberately framing me. Yu Fu was even angrier as he shouted. Even if you came to Sky Lion Pass under the orders of the deputy commander. But before you took up the position, you clashed with your subordinates, destroyed the scout camp and injured so many generals. Your nature is so violent and your methods are so cruel. What qualifications do you have to lead the army? All the soldiers are seriously injured and will need at least 1 to 2 years to recover. During this time, the defense of Sky Lion Pass is weak and it is very likely to be broken through. At that time, the demon race army will invade and the entire empire of White Frost will suffer a disaster. The consequences will be unimaginable. Ji Tianxing, what are your intentions? If you did not look like a human, Ben Shuai would even suspect that you are a spy of the demon race. These imposing words spread throughout the entire mountain peak, causing countless soldiers to be filled with righteous indignation. Everyone agreed with Yu Fu's words and looked at Ji Tianxing with eyes full of hatred and enmity. Even many of Yu Fu's trusted generals raised their arms and shouted. Ji Tianxing has ulterior motives. He tried to destroy the defenses of the Heavenly Lion Pass. He has committed a heinous crime. How could he be so cruel to his own kind? This person is inhumane. In front of everyone's eyes, the heavens are clear. We will definitely not accept this person guarding the Heavenly Lion Pass. Marshal Yu, please punish Ji Tianxing severely and give us justice. More than a dozen generals shouted first, and soon, dozens of people echoed, looking like a group of excited people. When Yu Fu saw that it was about time, he glared at Ji Tianxing and released an invisible pressure that enveloped him. Ji Tianxing, what else do you have to say? The powerful pressure of a martial saint ruthlessly suppressed Ji Tianxing. If it was an ordinary person, they would definitely be terrified. They would be suppressed to the point of bending their backs and lowering their heads, or even lying on the ground. It looked as if he had bowed his head and admitted his guilt. It was hard for him to refute. However, Yu Fu did not expect that Ji Tianxing would not move at all. He did not react to his pressure at all. How is this possible? This brat can actually ignore my pressure? Yu Fu was shocked. However, he could not tell Ji Tianxing's cultivation level. He could not help but frown. At this moment, Ji Tianxing laughed loudly and said, Deputy Marshal Yu, you are really good at distorting right and wrong. If you had not purposely made things difficult for me and ordered those generals to attack me, why would I have made a move? If not for your orders, would those generals have dared to attack me? Now I am the one who harmed my own kind? You are even slandering me as a spy of the demon race? I think that a vermin and trash like you is the greatest hidden danger of the Heavenly Lion Pass. You are an eternal sinner of the White Frost Empire. Yu Fu's words were sharp, but Ji Tianxing did not show any mercy. His words were even harsher and more vicious. Vermin, trash, eternal sinner, and other such terms angered Yu Fu to the point that his face turned ashen and his body trembled. Ji Tianxing. Yu Fu roared and pointed at Ji Tianxing with a ferocious expression. He shouted coldly, You are such an audacious madman. You really don't know what is good for you. You are arrogant to the extreme. Ben Shuai is the hero who guarded the Heavenly Lion Pass, but you slandered him like this. In front of everyone, Ben Shuai will not talk nonsense with you anymore. Draw your sword. Ben Shuai wants to see how capable you are. Who is the real trash? The time was ripe. Yu Fu's anger had reached its peak and turned into killing intent. His whole body emitted a dark red murderous aura. He rushed into the sky like a rainbow and locked onto Ji Tianxing's aura with his divine sense. He could unleash a thunderous attack at any time and kill Ji Tianxing on the spot. Ji Tianxing was not afraid. He sneered and said, "You are not worthy for me to draw my sword. You are courting death." Yu Fu was so angry that he could no longer suppress his killing intent. He waved his palms and attacked Ji Tianxing. Mountain splitting palm. Yu Fu's palms struck out two golden palm shadows. It was as if they were splitting the sky and earth. They slashed toward Ji Tianxing. The dark night sky was immediately illuminated by the golden light. The white clouds and thick fog in the night sky were also dispersed by the formless energy. All the soldiers on the mountain peak looked up at the night sky with excited and expectant expressions. In everyone's eyes, Deputy Commander Yu had personally made a move. This time, Ji Tianxing was dead meat. However, Ji Tianxing was still very calm. He calmly raised his palms and attacked Yu Fu. He did not dodge at all. He chose to face Yu Fu head-on. Star-shattering fist. Two silver fist shadows struck out and collided with the giant golden palm shadows. There was an earth-shattering explosion. Kaboom! Amidst a deafening explosion, the mountain-splitting palm shattered with a bang, turning into golden light that scattered everywhere. The silver fist shadow's power did not diminish and hit Yu Fu instantly. Bang! In the explosion, Yu Fu's body trembled and he was pushed back 100 feet before he stopped. Although he had the sacred armor to protect his body, he was not injured by Ji Tianxing. However, in front of everyone's eyes, he had been pushed back by Ji Tianxing. He could not even take one blow from Ji Tianxing. This was too humiliating and it was out of everyone's expectations. Yu Fu was so angry that his face turned white. His heart was filled with shame and anger. The soldiers who were watching the battle at the top of the mountain were also dumbfounded. Their faces were filled with horror as they widened their eyes and exclaimed in surprise, "Oh my God! Am I seeing things? Deputy Commander Yu was pushed back by that kid? How is that possible? Has that kid reached the martial sage realm? This is too unbelievable. Deputy Commander Yu is an ancestor martial sage. How old is that kid? He is so young. If he has really broken through to the martial sage realm, it would definitely shock the world. Why is there no news at all? No wonder he dares to be so arrogant. He even dares to insult Deputy Commander Yu. It turns out that he is really capable." Many soldiers were discussing among themselves. Their voices were like a flood that exploded and reverberated around the mountain peak. Yu Fu heard it clearly and he felt even more humiliated. He waved his palm again and used his secret skill to attack Ji Tianxing. Shadowless Diffraction Sword. Chapter 2067. The giant sword pierced through the air as fast as a flash of light. Before the sword arrived, the formless sword intent had already enveloped a radius of 100 miles, ruthlessly suppressing Ji Tianxing. The razor-sharp sword qi sliced the night sky apart, leaving cracks in its wake. This sword was terrifyingly powerful and had a shocking momentum. The sword was so fast that even a shadow could not be formed. It was as if it could cut the moonlight in half. This was how the Shadowless Diffraction Sword got its name. The soldiers on the mountain peak were dazzled when they saw Yu Fu use his ultimate sword technique. They were full of admiration and worship. However, Ji Tianxing was disdainful and scoffed. "You dare to show off such a clumsy sword technique before an expert? I'll let you see what the true way of the sword is." As he spoke, Ji Tianxing put his left hand behind his back and pointed at Yu Fu with his right hand. Shattering Sun Sword. A 300-meter-long, dazzling golden sword slashed at the shadowless fractional light sword. The two giant swords were both dazzling gold, but there was a huge difference in size and aura. Compared to the dazzling shattering sun sword, the shadowless diffraction sword seemed especially weak. Kaboom! Amidst the deafening sound, the two giant swords collided and exploded with a golden light that covered the sky. It was as dazzling as the sun. The 1,000-foot-long shadowless diffraction sword was shattered on the spot. The 1,000-foot-long shattering sun sword was not damaged at all. It was still divine and dazzling. Bang! The shattering sun sword's power did not decrease. It hit Yu Fu with a loud bang. Yu Fu was sent flying backward on the spot. He rolled and fell into the distant night sky. Fortunately, he was wearing a divine armor and Ji Tianxing did not use the sword of burial of heaven, so he was not seriously injured. Even so, his robe was torn and tattered, and there was a dent on his armor. His helmet was also crooked, revealing his messy hair. He looked a little pathetic. Yu Fu flew backward for a full 10 miles before he dissipated the force of the impact and stopped in the night sky. His face was as pale as paper. His chest rose and fell rapidly. He panted for a while before he could circulate his magic power smoothly. Dense shock and rage filled his heart and mind, causing him to be unable to restrain his rage, shame, and indignation. How is this possible? His attainment in the way of the sword is stronger than Ben Shuai's? Ben Shuai is an ancestor-level martial sage, but he is so young. How can there be such a monster in the world? Yu Fu lowered his head and looked at the dent on his chest armor. His eyes widened in disbelief as he muttered hoarsely. All along, he had great power and influence, and he could be said to be in high spirit. Until tonight, he'd suffered repeated setbacks, and he'd been repeatedly humiliated by a young junior, causing him to be battered to the point he was covered in wounds. And he could not accept this fact. His cheeks were red and hot, the blood in his body was burning, and the flames of anger were surging in his chest. His fists were clenched tightly and his 10 fingers were cracking. However, when he saw the situation clearly, his face became even uglier. The soldiers on the mountain peak all stared at Ji Tianxing in the night sky with their mouths agape. Their eyes were filled with shock and admiration. Many people let out exclamations of surprise as they discussed excitedly. Unbelievable! This person's strength is so terrifying. Martial Yu is an experienced martial sage. He can't even block one of his moves. After exchanging 2 blows in a row, he was still no match for Ji Tianxing and was even sent flying dozens of miles away. Is this still our Martial Yu? How can there be such a monster in the world? You can imagine how high this person's prestige is in Luotian Mountain. It's over. Martial Yu has a grudge with this person. This person is so monstrous. He must be highly regarded by the Divine Master. Martial Yu's situation is worrying. Yu Fu was angry and ashamed. When he heard the discussion of the soldiers, he was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. The soldiers were shocked when they saw this scene. Martial Yu is injured. Martial Yu was seriously injured by Ji Tianxing to the point of vomiting blood. Martial Yu lost so miserably. I'm afraid he won't be able to raise his head in front of Ji Tianxing in the future. Countless soldiers were discussing and worried about Yu Fu's situation. How can Ji Tianxing let go of this opportunity to ridicule Yu Fu? Vice Marshal Yu, who is the trash? The result is clear. You are an old man who takes advantage of your seniority. You don't have any real ability but only know how to play trick. How can you lead millions of soldiers to victory? Ji Tianxing's voice spread through the night sky and the soldiers on the 2 mountain peaks heard it clearly. On the eastern mountain peak, the soldiers under Yu Fu are filled with anger and humiliation, but they are powerless to refute. On the western mountain peak, the soldiers on the western mountain peak find it funny and are excitedly watching a good show. Yu Fu has lost all his face. He is so angry that he can no longer maintain his rationality. His eyes are covered with a layer of red. Light flashed in his palm, and a dazzling golden sword appeared. Ji Tianxing, this old man has no enmity with you, but you humiliate this old man like this. This old man will not rest until you die. As he spoke, Yu Fu's body bloomed with scarlet flames and his aura climbed to the peak. He doesn't care about anything else. He just wants to use all his strength to kill Ji Tianxing with his sword to vent the hatred in his heart and regain his face. Ji Tianxing looked at him with a smile and said in a contemptuous tone, "This seat said just now, don't use sword skills in front of this seat. That is asking to be humiliated." "Ji Tianxing, I will kill you!" Yu Fu's anger surged as he roared at the top of his lungs. He held the golden sword with both hands and slashed at Ji Tianxing. Dragon soaring to the ninth heaven. With a wave of the golden holy sword, 2 golden dragon shadows soared into the sky and let out dragon roars that pierced through gold and cracked stone. The 2 golden dragons rushed into the night sky, illuminating a radius of hundreds of miles. Their power was terrifying to the extreme. The golden dragons swooped down from the sky, carrying the power to destroy everything, and fiercely bombarded Ji Tianxing. In the face of such a destructive attack, Ji Tianxing could only use the Burial of Heaven sword to block it. But he stood in the same place, motionless, and had no intention of fighting back. He looked at Yu Fu with a playful gaze and a smile at the corner of his mouth. He seemed to have a card up his sleeve and was very wise. In the next moment, the 2 golden dragons were about to hit Ji Tianxing. A crisp, cold, angry shout suddenly rang out in the night sky. "Stop!" As this majestic cold shout sounded, a giant golden palm the size of a mountain suddenly tore through the night sky and grabbed at the 2 golden dragons. Bang! In the blink of an eye, the giant golden palm grabbed the 2 golden dragon phantoms and crushed them. Boom! Golden fragments fell from the sky and drowned Ji Tianxing's figure. He stood in the night sky with a calm expression, bathed in the snowflake-like golden fragments, with a calm, confident, and proud posture. Such a scene caused countless officers and soldiers to be dumbstruck, and they were filled with shock and admiration. Chapter 2068. The golden light fragments scattered in the night sky, and the giant golden palm dissipated. A white light flew from afar and arrived at the top of the mountain. After the white light dissipated, 5 figures appeared. 4 of them were tall men in armor. They were at the 6th or 7th level of the Crossing Calamity Realm. The 4 of them were obviously the generals of Sky Lion Pass. However, they were not the generals under Yu Fu's command. They came from the West Mountain. The leader was a young woman in a white palace dress. She had a slim figure. She was 7 feet tall and wore an exquisite palace dress. She wore a crown with a golden Luan phoenix gem inlaid with jade. She exuded a noble and elegant aura. She was so powerful that people could only look at her from afar and did not dare to have any blasphemous thoughts. Her face was exquisite and beautiful, but it was not seductive at all. She had a cold and majestic aura. It was obvious that she was the one who had crushed the 2 golden dragons with the giant golden palm. She stood proudly in the night sky and looked down at everyone. There was a hint of anger between her eyebrows. She exuded a cold aura. In an instant, the entire mountain peak fell silent. Countless soldiers looked up at the sky, their faces filled with awe and veneration. After being stunned for a moment, everyone bowed in unison and shouted respectfully, "Welcome, Holy Emperor!" There was no doubt that the beautiful woman in the palace dress was the Holy Emperor of the Kingdom of Baishuang, Lu Baishuang. Yu Fu, who was originally angry, suddenly changed his expression when he saw Lu Baishuang. He quickly suppressed his anger and flew in front of Lu Baishuang. He bowed respectfully. "Greetings, Holy Emperor." Holy Emperor Baishuang glanced at him expressionlessly. Then, she looked at Ji Tianxing, who was not far away. She couldn't help but frown when she saw Ji Tianxing standing in the night sky with an indifferent expression. He didn't show the slightest bit of respect, nor did he show any signs of bowing. "Who are you? Why are you fighting in my Sky Lion Pass?" When Ji Tianxing heard her words and saw her expression, he guessed that she already knew the inside story. He asked this question even though he already knew the answer. If Lu Baishuang really treated him as an enemy, there was no need to stop Yu Fu. He could just kill him directly. Thinking of this, Ji Tianxing smiled faintly and said, "Holy Emperor Baishuang is extremely intelligent. Why do you need to ask me?" As for the reason, you can ask Deputy Commander Yu. Yu Fu was full of anger and wanted to complain to Lu Baishuang. Hearing Ji Tianxing's words, he sneered in his heart. Humph! Damned brat, you asked for it. Hence, Yu Fu hurriedly clasped his hands and reporting to the Saint Emperor, this person is called Ji Tianxing. He claims to be a disciple of the Luotian mountain range. The moment he arrived at the Heavenly Lion Pass, he requested to see you. He claimed that he was ordered by the Divine Lord to be the deputy commander of the Heavenly Lion Pass. The Saint Emperor was far away in White Mountain City dealing with government affairs. How busy was he? How could anyone meet him? Of course, I didn't believe it, so I sent someone to send him away. Yu Fu recounted the events that happened previously from beginning to end. Of course, if he changed his statement slightly, he would make himself an innocent person and cast away all the responsibility. As for Ji Tianxing, he became a lawless, cruel and tyrannical villain. Lu Baishuang listened to his narration without any expression. Occasionally, he would glance at Ji Tianxing's reaction. Ji Tianxing only listened calmly without any intention to argue. After Yu Fu finished, he pointed at Ji Tianxing and said to Lu Baishuang, Saint Emperor, fortunately you came in time. Otherwise, this person would have injured me and destroyed the entire Heavenly Lion Pass. At that time, the consequences would be unimaginable. Lu Baishuang looked at Ji Tianxing calmly and asked, Ji Tianxing, is what Yu Fu said true? Ji Tianxing sneered disdainfully. Right or wrong, Saint Emperor Baishuang naturally knows the answer in your heart. Why bother asking? The truth of the matter is clear to the generals around you. Why don't you ask them? Yu Fu's expression changed immediately. He pointed at him and shouted, Ji Tianxing, how dare you be so disrespectful to Lord Saint Emperor? Men, take this arrogant person down. Originally, he was worried that Ji Tianxing would cry and plead to Lu Baishuang, and this matter would be left unsettled. But he didn't expect Ji Tianxing to be so arrogant. He didn't even put Lu Baishuang in his eyes. This was exactly what he wanted, and he was very pleased with himself. However, when he gave the order, no one dared to move. Yu Fu was embarrassed. Lu Baishuang turned to look at Yu Fu. His expression gradually turned cold, and he shouted in a dignified tone, Deputy Commander Yu, Ji Tianxing is a disciple of Luotian Mountain, the #1 god disciple of Luotian Kingdom. In terms of status, he can stand shoulder to shoulder with this emperor. Even if he is disrespectful, it is understandable. If you are so eager to convict him, what do you think of this emperor? Yu Fu was dumbfounded. He stared at Lu Baishuang with wide eyes. He didn't expect that Ji Tianxing wouldn't say a word, but Lu Baishuang would take the initiative to defend him. Yu Fu came back to his senses and hurriedly said, Saint Emperor, even if Ji Tianxing's status is noble, he is truly lawless and cruel. He injured so many soldiers. Before he could finish, Lu Baishuang shouted angrily, Shut up, Deputy Commander Yu, in front of so many people, you still want to distort the truth? What exactly happened? Don't tell me you still need this emperor to repeat it? Yu Fu's expression became even uglier, but he was unwilling. He pointed at Ji Tianxing and said, But Saint Emperor, he injured so many soldiers and destroyed the entire scout camp. This is the truth. Lu Baishuang's eyes became colder and colder. He shouted in a dignified tone, Deputy Commander Yu, if you didn't deliberately suppress and frame Ji Tianxing, how could he have retaliated? Many soldiers were injured and the scout camp was destroyed. It was all because of you. Before this emperor left, I told you that Ji Tianxing was about to arrive at Sky Lion Pass. I told you to receive him well in hand over the military affairs. There can be no mistakes. What about you? Is this the explanation you gave to this emperor? Is this how you completed the mission I gave you? Yu Fu, you have disappointed this emperor too much. Lu Baishuang's voice spread throughout the entire area, shaking the night sky. An invisible pressure enveloped the entire Sky Lion Pass. The million soldiers heard it clearly, and their hearts were filled with awe. They didn't dare to make any noise. Yu Fu's expression was also extremely ugly. His forehead was covered in cold sweat. He shouted in his heart, "How can this be? That brat is so arrogant that he didn't even bother to explain. Lu Baishuang didn't dare to criticize him and even reprimand me in front of everyone?" Yu Fu couldn't understand. He was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. At this moment, something happened that made his eyes pop out. Lu Baishuang walked in front of Ji Tianxing and bowed in a dignified manner. He said with an apologetic face, "Young Master Ji, this emperor was busy with government affairs and neglected to receive you. This caused this misunderstanding. I feel very guilty and uneasy. Please forgive me, young Master Ji." Chapter 2069. The dignified Holy Emperor of the White Frost Empire actually bowed to Ji Tianxing and apologized. This was simply unheard of. Not only was Yu Fu dumbstruck, the hundreds of thousands of soldiers were also filled with shock, their eyeballs dropping to the ground. In everyone's mind, the same thought emerged. What is this Ji Tianxing's background? Even the Holy Emperor has to give him some face? Everyone was dumbfounded. Luotian Mountain's eldest disciple, Luo Shui Divine Kingdom's #1 God disciple, was he really so noble and unparalleled? No matter how noble he was not a martial saint after all. How could he be mentioned in the same breath as Holy Emperor Whitefrost? How could Holy Emperor Whitefrost reprimand the ancestor-level martial Saint Yu Fu in public for him? No one could understand. In everyone's view, Deputy Commander Yu was beaten until he was seriously injured and even reprimanded by the Holy Emperor. It was incomparably humiliating. Ji Tianxing made a mistake but gained all the advantages and was even praised by Holy Emperor Whitefrost like this. It was truly inconceivable. He should also quit while he was ahead and go along with Holy Emperor Whitefrost's intention, take advantage of the situation and end this matter. But something that everyone did not expect happened. Ji Tianxing shot a glance at Holy Emperor Whitefrost and actually laughed coldly. "Lu Baishuang, you raised it up high and put it down lightly, and you want to end this matter? How can a narrow-minded and short-sighted guy like Yu Fu command a million army? How can he possibly resist the fiend race? You reprimanded him with a few words like this, aren't you protecting him?" Ji Tianxing's voice reverberated throughout the entire place, making countless soldiers dumbfounded, shocked until their eyeballs almost fell to the ground. My God! Is that guy crazy? He actually did not give any face to Holy Emperor Whitefrost at all. Even Holy Emperor is not in his eyes. Not only did he not have any respect, he directly called Holy Emperor Whitefrost's name and even reprimanded Holy Emperor Whitefrost for protecting Yu Fu. Seriously too arrogant. Even if Luotian Mountain's Granny Long came, she would also not be so impolite. It's over. Lord Holy Emperor already gave him enough face, but he still wants to court death. Looks like this grudge can't be resolved. He and Deputy Commander Yu Fu will not rest until one is dead. Countless officers and soldiers were whispering to each other, discussing in secret. Everyone's expression and eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. Ji Tianxing's arrogance was beyond everyone's imagination. It was an eye-opener. Yu Fu was stunned for a moment. Soon after, he revealed a sinister cold smile. His heart was incomparably carefree. Ha 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 ha. Ji Tianxing, oh Ji Tianxing, this is your own death. You can't blame anyone else. Lu Baishuang was also startled. Furrowing her brow, she asked in a low voice, "Young Master Ji, the demon race's army is eyeing us like a tiger watching its prey. We must prioritize the overall situation. I hope you can understand my concerns. Don't blow this matter up. It won't do anyone any good." Ji Tianxing waved his hand and said sternly, "That's right. You are the master of the White Frost Empire. Of course, you have to consider the big picture. But why should I endure? Of course, I know that you have to consider the big picture and have many concerns. There are also power struggles within the White Frost Empire that must be carefully resolved. But what does this have to do with me? My time is precious. I don't want to waste a single day on these useless trash. After I help you deal with the demon race's army outside the pass, I still have to rush to the other battlefronts to help the other commanders. Once these words came out, everyone was shocked. Everyone was dumbfounded. No one dared to believe that Ji Tianxing was arrogant to such an extent. He dared to criticize Holy Emperor Bai Shuang in front of her face, and even called the soldiers useless trash. For a moment, the two peaks were silent for a long time. Then, the soldiers came back to their senses and burst into angry roars and curses. Despicable fellow, he is too arrogant. How dare he insult the Holy Emperor and the millions of soldiers of the Heavenly Lion Pass? We will fight it out with you. How can there be such a savage and arrogant person in this world? He is too lawless. Our Heavenly Lion Pass does not need such an arrogant and conceited fellow. Holy Emperor, please understand. We will not accept this person as our deputy commander. Similar discussions and angry roars rang out one after another on the mountain peak. Lu Baishuang's expression was very ugly, and her eyes were gloomy like ice. But she kept silent, weighing the pros and cons in her heart, and did not speak. As early as half a month ago, Granny Long had sent her messages many times, repeatedly reminding her about this matter. Of course, she knew that Luo Shui martial god was in seclusion and could not appear to fight against the demon race. Only a divine soul avatar had been destroyed by the ancestor fiend god after causing havoc in North Underworld Mountain. Now, Luo Shui martial god had high hopes for Ji Tianxing, so he sent him to the north to participate in the battle against the demon race's army. Lu Baishuang naturally knew that Ji Tianxing was not lying. He was indeed here to help. He did not care about the position of Heavenly Lion Pass's deputy commander. After he helped Heavenly Lion Pass repel the demon race, he would go to the other passes to help the other commanders resist the demon race. Because of this, Lu Baishuang's attitude towards Ji Tianxing was respectful and courteous. Even when Ji Tianxing caused havoc in Heavenly Lion Pass and injured more than 100 soldiers, she did not reprimand him. She only wanted to keep the peace. But she never thought that Ji Tianxing's personality would be so arrogant that he would embarrass her in front of everyone, making it difficult for her to choose. Even the million soldiers of Heavenly Lion Pass were infuriated by Ji Tianxing. Under the agitation of the crowd, she found it difficult to absolve Ji Tianxing. After a while, Lu Baishuang waved her hand, indicating for the soldiers to quiet down. When everyone quieted down, she looked at Ji Tianxing with burning eyes and asked, "Young Master Ji, this emperor can understand your feelings. I know that you have been wronged and feel indignant. But you should also understand that as a commander, you must be tolerant." Before she could finish, Ji Tianxing waved his hand and said, "Lu Baishuang, you don't need to persuade me anymore. I understand these principles better than you. I will tell you clearly now that I will not work with that filthy old thing Yu Fu. Heavenly Lion Pass only needs one deputy commander. You can either let him stay or kick him out." "What?" Lu Baishuang was also dumbfounded. She stared at him, dumbfounded. Countless soldiers in the field were once again petrified by Ji Tianxing. Everyone's horizons were broadened, and they finally understood how arrogant a person could be. Yu Fu was so angry that his white hair fluttered in the wind, his beard trembled, and his whole body trembled. His blood and qi surged, rushing straight to his face and head. He was so angry that he almost fainted. "Ji Tianxing, you thief, this old man wants to tear you into pieces." Yu Fu pointed his trembling finger at Ji Tianxing and cursed in a hoarse voice. Many generals and commanders also cursed with righteous indignation. They asked Lu Baishuang to drive Ji Tianxing away and not accept him. Chapter 2070. Lu Baishuang was indeed in a dilemma. She understood the situation in the Luo Shui Divine Kingdom, so she did not dare to disobey the orders of the Luo Shui martial god. She wanted to keep Ji Tianxing here. However, Ji Tianxing's arrogance had broken through the sky and refreshed everyone's vision, causing countless soldiers to feel disgusted. If she insisted on keeping Ji Tianxing here, it would only cause dissatisfaction among the soldiers, and even affect the unity of the army, which would lead to a disaster. Lu Baishuang cast a look at Ji Tianxing, urging him to stay, and secretly transmitted her voice, "Young Master Ji, why do you have to make things difficult for this empress? As long as you change your words, this empress will punish Yu Fu severely and give you justice after today's matter is over." As the holy emperor of the White Frost Empire, the famous empress, Lu Baishuang had done everything she could. It was all for the sake of Granny Long and the Luo Shui martial god that she tolerated Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing was well aware of this, so he no longer made things difficult for Lu Baishuang. He turned his head to look at Yu Fu and the other generals. Yu Fu was looking at him with a cold smile on his face, looking very satisfied and proud, as if victory was already in his hands. Hundreds of generals also supported Yu Fu, shouting with indignation. Ji Tianxing's face was solemn, and he shouted in a vigorous voice, "Silence." His voice was like a thunderclap, shaking the area for hundreds of miles. The sound wave contained an invisible soul-suppressing power, which enveloped the entire Sky Lion Pass. Instantly, hundreds of thousands of soldiers quieted down, no longer daring to talk or make noise. Ji Tianxing looked at Yu Fu and the other generals with sharp eyes, and said in a low and dignified voice, "This seat knows that you are not convinced by calling you useless trash." Yu Fu sneered and said in a voice like a bell, "Of course. Ben Shuai and the other generals are all warriors who have been in hundreds of battles. They have guarded Sky Lion Pass for more than half a year, and they have contributed a lot. We have protected the territory of the White Frost Empire for the people, and we have shed our blood. We are all meritorious officials. How can we allow you to slander us? You're just a flower in a greenhouse, a brat who hasn't experienced any hardships. What qualifications do you have to insult the soldiers?" These impassioned words immediately caused hundreds of generals to nod in agreement. Ji Tianxing sneered disdainfully, pointed at Yu Fu and shouted, "Good! Since you consider yourselves heroes who have performed meritorious deeds and are not to be slandered, then why don't you give it to us? Then let me ask you, how many times have you fought with the devil army? How many devils have you killed?" Yu Fu raised his head and puffed out his chest, replying proudly, "Ben Shuai has fought with the demon army more than 20 times head-on and 8 times in secret, killing a total of more than 30,000 demons. Among them, there are more than a dozen devil generals and dozens of commanders. They are all elite experts and experts of the devil race." Ji Tianxing did not comment and looked at the generals behind Yu Fu. "What battle merits did you guys have?" The generals all showed proud expressions as they puffed out their chests and said in an excited tone, "This general fought 21 battles with the demon race and personally killed over 10,000 of them. This general led the vanguard battalion and fought 18 battles with the demon race, killing more than 8,000 of them. This general killed more than 5,000 of them and suffered more than 30 injuries, escaping from death 3 times. As Ji Tianxing's gaze moved, every general who was stared at by him reported their battle merits in a loud voice. Every general felt proud from the bottom of their hearts, and the surrounding soldiers also showed admiration and even applauded them. For a full quarter of an hour, Ji Tianxing did not say a word, only listening to the 100 over generals report their battle merits. Lu Baishuang stood beside him and frowned at him, not knowing what he wanted to do. Finally, the 100 over generals by Yu Fu's side finished reporting their battle merits. Ji Tianxing then showed a disdainful sneer and said in a vigorous voice, "Very good. Including Deputy Commander Yu, there are a total of more than 120 generals, all of whom have battle merits. This seat has calculated, The 100 of you together have killed a total of 210,000 devils. Among them, the strongest are more than 10 Tribulation Realm generals, and more than 100 Tribulation Realm and Primordial Spirit Realm commanders. Just based on these battle merits, you all think that you are loyal and courageous officials who have worked hard and are very complacent and proud. This seat scolded you all as vermin, useless trash, and you all are very angry and unconvinced. Yu Fu sneered proudly. Of course! Even if we are not as strong as you, we have personally killed the demon race and bathed in blood on the battlefield. Unlike you, a lawless madman who only knows how to be arrogant, but has no military merits. The 100 or so generals around him all roared with laughter, looking very pleased with themselves. Ji Tianxing also laughed. He looked at Yu Fu with pity and shouted in a cold voice, "Deputy Commander Yu, please open your dog eyes and look carefully." When his voice fell, he waved his hand and a silver light screen appeared, hanging in the dark night sky. In the huge light screen that was 3,000 feet in length and width, a magnificent scene immediately appeared. Under the rolling black clouds in the sky was a boundless wasteland. The ground had long been dyed purple with blood, and there were piles of white bones and corpses everywhere. The endless demon race army surged like a black tide, carrying with it the power to destroy the heavens and the earth, and charged at the impregnable pass. At a glance, the demon race army was at least several million in number, making one's scalp tingle. At this time, a human youth in white, holding a mysterious black sword, charged at the million-strong demon race army alone. He stepped on the stars, waved his sword, and used a secret technique that could destroy the heavens and the earth. There were giant swords that could split the heavens and the earth, heavenly fire that was like a flood, and violent hurricanes and lightning that wreaked havoc in the demon race army. Thousands of devil race soldiers would be smashed into smithereens with each strike of the secret technique. When the white-clothed youth used his secret technique, it was even more destructive, killing 100,000 demons in one move. Such a terrifying power was like a god of death descending to the world, punishing with the wrath of the heavens. The scene was very lifelike, making Lu Baishuang, Yu Fu, and the soldiers on the mountain peak feel as if they were in the same situation. The scene of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood, an incomparably tragic scene, made everyone's eyes widen, their hearts tremble, and a chill run down their backs. No one had ever seen such a tragic battle that was like hell. The unparalleled power of the white-clothed youth was deeply imprinted in everyone's soul, and they could not forget it. Many soldiers were in awe, and they felt a strong sense of awe and worship towards the white-clothed youth. However, Lu Baishuang and Yu Fu's expressions changed. It was because both of them were able to discern that the white-clothed young man who was like a god of slaughter was Ji Tianxing. Lu Baishuang suddenly understood, and her wrinkled brows relaxed, and her mind calmed down. Chapter 2071. After 100 breaths of time, the image on the silver light screen disappeared. Ji Tianxing put his hands behind his back and looked down at the soldiers with an arrogant expression. His voice was as loud as a bell. Back then, in order to save hundreds of millions of people, I fought against the demon race for many years. Outside the Tianlong Pass, I killed more than 500,000 demon race soldiers with my sword. When the demon race soldiers besieged Zhongzhou City, I killed more than 1 million demon race soldiers. After a narrow escape, I killed the leader of the demon race. Because of this, the demon race viewed me as a great enemy, a target that must be killed. And the hundreds of millions of people of the human race respectfully called me the white-robed killing god, the Saint Lord of Salvation. As he spoke, his right palm glowed with a golden light, and the mysterious pitch-black burial of heaven sword appeared. Ji Tianxing held the sword with his right hand and stroked the blade with his left hand. He said in a low and dignified voice, "The number of demon race soldiers who died under my sword is no less than 1.5 million. His voice was not loud, but it spread clearly throughout the Tianlong Pass. The millions of soldiers heard it clearly. Everyone was shocked. They felt their bodies stiffen and their scalps tingle. Their hearts were filled with shock and awe. Not to mention killing 1.5 million ferocious demon race soldiers. Even if he killed 1.5 million ordinary people, he would be a rare killing god. This kind of peerless killing god could slaughter the entire Tianlong Pass with just one sword. The hundreds of thousands of soldiers were silent. The pride and complacency of the more than 100 generals disappeared without a trace. Everyone was embarrassed. They lowered their heads and did not dare to say anything. Each of them had only killed a few thousand demon race soldiers, and they were already proud of it. They boasted that they had worked hard and made great contributions, but compared to Ji Tianxing, they were not even worth a single strand of hair. Yu Fu's face was also very ugly. His expression was somewhat evasive, but he quickly came back to his senses and hurriedly explained, "Ji Tianxing, this is only your side of the story. Who knows if you are making it up? What Tianlong Pass? What Zhongzhou City? We have never heard of it." Although many people could see that the images shown in the silver light screen were definitely Ji Tianxing's real experience. If they hadn't personally experienced it, no one would be able to imagine such a huge and bloody battle. But when Yu Fu raised such a question, there was naturally a large number of trusted generals who agreed. That's right. This is Ji Tianxing's one-sided story. You can't believe it. Ji Tianxing has always been arrogant. He speaks without thinking, and when he brags, it's boundless. One person slaughtering 1.5 million demons? You're talking about a heavenly book. Even if there were 1.5 million cows, you wouldn't be able to kill them all. More than 20 generals questioned Ji Tianxing's words, one after another. However, they were obviously not confident enough. After they finished speaking, no one responded. The soldiers around the mountain peak all maintained their silence, their expressions solemn. Ji Tianxing didn't bother to explain, nor did he bother to pay attention to those generals. He continued, "Because of this, I am the one who understands the demons the most in this world. The origin of the demons, their races, characteristics and talents, as well as their weaknesses and all kinds of demonic methods, I am very clear about them. A year ago, I gathered all my life's experience into a demon-resisting record and asked Granny Long to distribute it to the northern battlefield for the soldiers to read." Hearing this, Lu Baishuang's eyes became brighter, and a hint of a smile flashed in his eyes. Yu Fu and the generals' faces changed dramatically again, revealing an incomparably shocked expression. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers in the Heavenly Lion Pass revealed a look of realization, and they began to discuss excitedly. "Oh my God! So he is the one who compiled the demon-resisting record. I see. No wonder when I heard Ji Tianxing's name before, I felt that it was somewhat familiar, as if I had heard it somewhere before. Ever since we learned the demon-resisting record, it has become easier to deal with the demon army, and the number of casualties has been decreasing. This is all thanks to Ji Tianxing's contribution. Ji Tianxing's demon-resisting record allowed the 30 million soldiers in the north to learn how to deal with the demons. This is definitely a great contribution. No wonder he could compile the demon-resisting record. Looks like he really fought with the demons for many years and killed 1.5 million of them with his own hands." In an instant, hundreds of thousands of generals were discussing Ji Tianxing, and they were full of respect and admiration for him. Naturally, the fact that he had killed 1 million demons became an ironclad fact, and no one dared to question it anymore. By now, everyone understood why God Luo Shui had sent Ji Tianxing to the Heavenly Lion Pass. He could really help the kingdom of White Frost defeat the demon army. Only when he was the deputy commander could he lead the million soldiers in the Heavenly Lion Pass to victory. When Yu Fu saw the reactions of the soldiers, his expression turned ugly, and his heart clenched. It's over. Ji Tianxing's achievements and contributions far exceeded Ben Shuai's, and he had already shocked everyone. This damned bastard! He actually turned the tables and easily resolved everyone's anger and disgust. He even won the respect of the soldiers. A strong sense of danger made Yu Fu uneasy, and he could not help but plead with Lu Baishuang. However, Ji Tianxing's performance was not over yet. There were even more heaven-defying achievements that had not been shown yet. Swoosh! He waved his hand and shot out another ray of white light, which entered the huge silver light screen. Instantly, another scene appeared on the light screen. In a dark wasteland, a handsome and valiant young man in white was fighting with a giant beast that was pitch black all over. That pitch-black beast was 30 meters tall and had sharp wings and a tailhook. Its appearance was ferocious and terrifying, and its aura was terrifyingly powerful. After the two sides exchanged a few moves, Ji Tianxing destroyed it with his sword, and it collapsed and dissipated on the spot. Ji Tianxing looked down at the soldiers and introduced solemnly, "Half a year ago, I fought with the new demon Saint Ji Shiluo and killed him on the spot. However, the leader of the demon race taught Ji Shiluo an ancient secret technique as his life-saving trump card. Ji Shiluo is not really dead, and he will be resurrected in the North Underworld Mountain within 10 years and recover his strength." Ji Tianxing did not mention the heavenly demon Jade Seed technique, and the soldiers did not understand anyway. Only Lu Baishuang heard the clues, and looked at Ji Tianxing with deep meaning, and thought to himself, it was really him who killed him. The new demon Saint Ji Shiluo did not even have time to lead the army before he was killed by him, and only a wisp of his soul was left. He is really the most tragic demon saint. At this time, Ji Tianxing waved his hand again, and shot out another ray of white light. The scene on the silver light screen changed again. It was a pitch-black void, and Ji Tianxing was fighting with Ancestor Xuepao. Ancestor Xuepao had been refined into an extreme demon weapon, and was almost immortal. The two sides fought for a long time, and at the last critical moment, Ji Tianxing used the god-slaying spear and killed the heavily injured ancestor Xuepao on the spot. The magnificent view of the void and the colorful lights and shadows made countless soldiers dazzled, and their hearts filled with worship and reverence. Chapter 2072. Ji Tianxing's voice reverberated throughout the entire Sky Lion Pass. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers were shocked. Their hearts were filled with reverence and worship. To them, the attack of 1.5 million demonic race soldiers was enough to put the Heavenly Lion Pass on the brink of destruction, and it would be broken through in an instant. However, Ji Tianxing had single-handedly slaughtered millions of demons. Patriarch Xuepao and Demon Saint Azura were notorious demons who had slaughtered countless lives. Their names struck fear into the hearts of the soldiers of the divine nation. Even Deputy Commander Yu and Holy Emperor Baishuang might not be able to defeat the two demon saints. However, Ji Tianxing had killed Demon Saint Azura and Patriarch Xuepao. He had displayed his invincible prowess, causing even the ferocious demon saints to feel fear and despair. What kind of shocking battle record was this? What kind of legendary god of slaughter was he? To be able to fight side by side with such a peerless genius, a legendary killing god, against the demon race, that was the honor of every soldier. Previously, Ji Tianxing had criticized Holy Emperor Baishuang, saying that his time was precious and he did not want to waste it on useless trash. At that time, everyone was filled with indignation and wanted to chase Ji Tianxing away. They would never accept him. Now, it seemed that the combined merits of all the generals present could not be compared to Ji Tianxing alone. Compared to Ji Tianxing, Deputy Commander Yu and the other generals were truly useless trash. Ji Tianxing had also said that he would help the Sky Lion Pass defeat the demons before helping the other generals. At that time, no one believed him. They all thought that he was arrogant and ignorant like a madman. However, it seemed that he could definitely lead the soldiers to defeat the demons and defend the Sky Lion Pass. No one doubted his words anymore. The hundreds of thousands of soldiers had forgotten about Deputy Commander Yu's existence. All their attention was on Ji Tianxing. Everyone was very excited. They only wanted Ji Tianxing to stay and lead them out of the Sky Lion Pass. They wanted to slaughter the demons outside the pass. As a soldier, who did not want to make contributions and become famous, not to mention a legend like Ji Tianxing, if they could achieve 1% of his battle record, they would be qualified to be a great hero. For a moment, the atmosphere and the situation in the field changed. Those officers and soldiers who were just watching the show all turned to Ji Tianxing and were extremely respectful and worshipful of him. Even most of the soldiers under Yu Fu's command had changed their minds and were wavering. Lu Baishuang saw all of this and couldn't help but smile. He sighed in his heart. No wonder Granny Long repeatedly told me to protect Ji Tianxing and listen to his arrangements and instructions. At that time I was still unconvinced. But now, Ji Tianxing is truly a rare genius, a dragon or phoenix among the heroes of the world. At the same time, Ji Tianxing continued in a calm tone, I was ordered to join the war in the north and serve as the deputy commander of the Sky Lion Pass. It is your honor, and the fortune of the people of the White Frost Empire. My time was precious, so I didn't want to bother myself with the schemes of some despicable people. I just want to destroy the demonic army in the shortest time possible and restore peace and tranquility to the Empire of White Frost. And some people can be complacent with such a pitiful battle record, and claim to be loyal and brave officials who have worked hard for a long time. Isn't that ridiculous? I call you useless trash. Do you accept that? If Ji Tianxing didn't show off his battle record and strength before, the soldiers wouldn't be convinced and would make a big fuss. But now, when he asked this question from a commanding position, the hundreds of thousands of soldiers fell silent, not daring to answer. The soldiers who had been making a ruckus earlier all lowered their heads in shame. They were so embarrassed that they wanted to die. Ji Tianxing frowned and asked again in a dignified tone, Are you convinced? The soldiers were silent for a while, then someone mustered up the courage to answer, Yes. Ji Tianxing raised his voice and asked in an even more dignified tone, Are you convinced? This time, countless soldiers answered in unison, Yes. Ji Tianxing nodded and said in a serious tone, That's good. If you want to wash away this shameful title, you have to go to the battlefield and kill the enemy, and make more contributions. I will lead you to fight against the demonic army, slaughter the demonic army, and win victory and peace. Do you want to be a warrior who returns victorious, a hero in the hearts of the people? His voice spread throughout the Sky Lion Pass, and made the blood of hundreds of thousands of soldiers boil. Countless people raised their arms and shouted, Yes. Ji Tianxing said in a dignified tone, Louder. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers raised their weapons and shouted hoarsely, Yes. The powerful sound waves resounded in the sky above the Sky Lion Pass, shaking the two huge mountains. At this moment, the blood of the 1,000,000 soldiers in the Sky Lion Pass was boiling, and their morale was soaring. Lu Baishuang finally showed a smile. She looked at Ji Tianxing with her clear and bright eyes, and there was a strong sense of appreciation in her eyes. No wonder Granny Long treats him like a nephew, and the Divine Master trusts him unconditionally. This person was truly a worldly talent, a monstrous genius that had never been seen before. Although I am the ruler of the White Frost Empire, and hundreds of millions of people respect me, I can't do this. But this emperor can't be like him, turning the situation around in just an hour and making those who looked down on him become his fans and worshippers. With him in charge of the Sky Lion Pass, victory is in sight. The four generals behind Lu Baishuang also showed gratified smiles, and they admired and praised Ji Tianxing very much. Not far away, Yu Fu's face was as black as the bottom of a pot, gloomy as ice, and his eyes were full of disappointment and despair. He knew very well that he had lost the confrontation with Ji Tianxing. He had lost completely, and he had been utterly defeated. This damn bastard, with just a few words, he incited hundreds of thousands of soldiers to support him. How did this despicable bastard do it? Yu Fu was an ancestor-level expert, and he certainly knew how Ji Tianxing had done it. However, the blow of failure was too great, and he could not believe or accept such a frustrating result. After a long time, the shouts that resounded through the sky finally dissipated. Ji Tianxing waved his sleeve and said in a loud voice, "Everyone, remember what you said tonight? Soon, you will be proud of your choice." After saying that, he looked at Yu Fu with disdain, and turned to look at Lu Baishuang beside him, and said in a calm voice, "Lu Baishuang, you do as you see fit." His attitude towards Lu Baishuang was as casual as ever, without the slightest respect. However, no one felt that it was inappropriate, and they felt that it was natural. Lu Baishuang took a step forward, looked at Yu Fu with a dignified face, and announced loudly, "From today onwards, Yu Fu will be removed from the position of deputy commander, and will be transferred to White Mountain City to take charge of internal affairs." With a simple sentence, Yu Fu was reduced from a noble deputy commander to a small official in the rear of the city. The difference in status could be said to be the difference between clouds and mud. Such a huge drop made Yu Fu feel deeply humiliated and angry. Chapter 2073. Yu Fu was the martial arts master of the Baishuang Empire, a respected ancestor. Being demoted from a deputy commander to a minor official in the Imperial Household Department was a great humiliation, and he could not accept it. In order to preserve what little face he had left, he would rather resign from his position and return to the sect to retire. Lu Baishuang understood his feelings, so she did not blame him and nodded in agreement. Then Yu Fu staggered and left, his figure disappearing into the night sky. After Yu Fu left, Lu Baishuang retracted her gaze and announced, "From today onwards, young Master Ji Tianxing will take over the position of deputy commander and lead the 3 armies in battle. No one is allowed to disobey young Master Ji's orders, or this emperor will punish them severely. If anyone colludes and opposes young Master Ji's orders, they will be killed without mercy." The clear and cold voice spread throughout the entire Heavenly Lion Pass. The millions of soldiers heard it clearly, and their bodies trembled, their hearts filled with awe. Lu Baishuang then ordered the 4 generals behind her, "Let the soldiers disperse, do not slack off on defense. The 4 of you go and gather the construction team, repair the scout camp as soon as possible and restore it to its original state." The 4 generals hurriedly cupped their hands in obeisance and went to carry out their respective tasks. In the sky, only Lu Baishuang and Ji Tianxing were left. Lu Baishuang nodded to Ji Tianxing and smiled. "Young Master Ji, this emperor did not expect things to turn out like this. This emperor was negligent. Now that young Master Ji has turned the tables and won the hearts of the millions of soldiers, it is truly worthy of celebration. Young Master Ji, please come to the commander's palace and let this emperor hold a welcoming dinner for you." Ji Tianxing glanced at her and smiled. "There is no need for a welcoming dinner. My time is tight, let's get down to business first." Hearing the words "get down to business first," Lu Baishuang did not know why, but a strange feeling arose in her heart, and a trace of undetectable shyness flashed through her eyes. But she immediately threw away the thought in her mind, and maintained a dignified posture, nodding, "That is also good, young Master Ji, please." With that, she led the way and personally led Ji Tianxing to the commander's palace. Lu Baishuang's commander's palace was located at the summit of the western mountain. It was a magnificent main palace surrounded by 12 other palaces. The interior of the main palace was decorated in a grand and imposing manner, but it was not overly luxurious. After the 2 entered the commander's palace, they walked into the conference hall. They came before a huge sand table and began to discuss military affairs. This 30-meter-wide sandbox was very lifelike. It clearly showed the terrain and the deployment of the troops within 100,000 miles. Ji Tianxing stood in front of the sand table and stared at it intently, carefully observing every part of the terrain and defense. While he was observing, he also memorized all the terrain and defensive arrangements. He remembered everything clearly, from big checkpoints and barracks to small sentry posts and arrow towers. For an entire hour, his gaze never left the sand table. Lu Baishuang was very familiar with the sand table, so he didn't look at it too much. His eyes were fixed on Ji Tianxing. Although she had only interacted with Ji Tianxing for 2 hours, she had already heard of him. She had also seen with her own eyes how he had turned the tables in a desperate situation and how high-spirited he was. In her eyes, Ji Tianxing was an enigmatic existence. She wanted to see through him. Unknowingly, an hour had passed. Lu Baishuang was looking at Ji Tianxing absent-mindedly, thinking of other things. Ji Tianxing suddenly retracted his gaze and turned to look at her. He said in a playful tone, "Lu Baishuang, you've been staring at me for an hour. Haven't you seen enough? I heard that you're not married and don't have a Dao companion. Could it be that you have feelings for me?" Lu Baishuang suddenly came back to her senses. When she heard his flirtatious words, her beautiful face turned cold. She said with some shame and anger, "Young Master Ji, please conduct yourself with dignity and don't speak nonsense." Ji Tianxing immediately revealed a relieved smile. He nodded and said, "That's right. I was worried that you would be infatuated with me and secretly have a crush on me. After all, I already have a family." His tone was very calm and natural, without the slightest exaggeration. It was very true. Because of this, Lu Baishuang was even more embarrassed and angry. She couldn't help but ask, "Young Master Ji, when you talk to others, are you also so flirtatious and narcissistic? Do you know that this Empress is the youngest Saint Emperor of the Luo River Divine Kingdom, and is also the Empress who is admired by millions of men? Is this Empress so unbearable in your eyes?" Ji Tianxing hurriedly shook his head. He looked at her from head to toe and said seriously, "With your talent and appearance, of course you're a rare beauty. However, my heart already belongs to someone. It's impossible for the two of us to be together. So, you should kill any thoughts of love as soon as possible. Otherwise, you'll be hurt and everyone will think that I'm a heartless man. I'll be so wronged." Lu Baishuang had always been dignified and dignified. She didn't show her emotions on her face, but she was still angered by Ji Tianxing's words. "You, Ji Tianxing, you're really narcissistic, arrogant, and shameless. Do you think this Empress will like you? Don't think too highly of yourself. This Empress doesn't like you at all." Ji Tianxing smiled again and patted his chest, and then I'm relieved. This way, it won't affect our cooperation." Lu Baishuang was so angry that her chest rose and fell rapidly. She almost choked on her breath and couldn't help but roll her eyes at him. "Ji Tianxing, this Empress is very regretful. If I knew you were like this, I wouldn't have agreed to let Granny Long bring you here." Ji Tianxing looked at her with a serious face and said in a serious tone, "Lu Baishuang, you're wrong. You're taking the lives of hundreds of millions of people as a joke. This is murder." Lu Baishuang was stunned and looked at him with a puzzled face. Ji Tianxing explained, "Because of your own emotions, you didn't let me come to Heavenly Lion Pass to help. This led to the fall of Heavenly Lion Pass, and hundreds of millions of people were massacred by the demon army. Tell me, aren't you the main culprit, the eternal sinner?" Lu Baishuang rolled her eyes again and held her forehead speechlessly. She smiled bitterly and said, "Ji Tianxing, I don't want to bicker with you. I admit defeat, okay? Now, I'll arrange a place for you to stay. You can stay here with peace of mind. Starting tomorrow, I'll send 2 deputy generals to be your assistants." Lu Baishuang couldn't stand him and didn't want to stay a moment longer. The Empress, who had always been calm and dignified, was now in a mess. She didn't even have a dignified bearing. She was afraid that if she continued to pester him, she would be led into a ditch by Ji Tianxing and say something unbefitting of her status. Simply put, she was afraid that after being teased by Ji Tianxing a few times, she wouldn't be able to help but curse him or vomit blood. Who knew that when Ji Tianxing saw her turn to leave, he pulled her arm and said with a smile, "Why wait until tomorrow? Let's start tonight. I'm in a hurry, so you have to hurry. Lu Baishuang was stunned and stared at him with her eyes wide open. Her eyes were filled with shame and anger. Chapter 2074. Lu Baishuang was crying. Her clear and beautiful eyes were covered with a thin layer of mist. Ji Tianxing saw her like this and felt a little helpless. He smiled bitterly and said, Lu Baishuang, what are you doing? I didn't bully you. I'm talking about proper business. It's a military mission. Are you getting the wrong idea? Lu Baishuang glared at him and said coldly, Ji Tianxing, I have something to do in White Mountain City. I'll be back in 3 days. I'll leave Sky Lion Pass to you. You must guard it well. Don't mess up. If Sky Lion Pass is lost, I won't forgive you. I'll report you to the Divine Master. Lu Baishuang turned around and left angrily. She didn't care about Ji Tianxing's persuasion and left as if she was escaping. When Lu Baishuang's figure disappeared into the night, Ji Tianxing revealed a triumphant smile and muttered to himself, I didn't expect the dignified Holy Emperor Baishuang to be so easy to tease. I didn't even use my strength and she ran away. That's good. If she's not in Sky Lion Pass, I can control the situation and carry out the plan as soon as possible. Obviously, Ji Tianxing wouldn't tease Holy Emperor Baishuang for no reason. Of course, there was a conspiracy. He had heard from Granny Long that Holy Emperor Baishuang was the youngest martial saint in the divine nation. She was still an unmarried girl. Because Lu Baishuang was too young, she had to pretend to be cold and dignified. She was also more mature and didn't dare to be too aggressive. He and Lu Baishuang had different views. If Lu Baishuang stayed in Sky Lion Pass, she would be in a stalemate with him and waste time. This time, he had to cut the Gordian knot and end the battle quickly. Only after Lu Baishuang left in anger could he go all out. Soon, the meeting hall quieted down. Ji Tianxing stared at the battle sand table and carefully observed it. At the same time, he was thinking about the next plan. One battle plan after another, bold ideas kept popping up in his mind. After leaving the commander's palace, Lu Baishuang left Sky Lion Pass with 2 maids. The 3 of them stepped on a white cloud and sped through the night sky toward White Mountain City. Lu Baishuang stood on top of the cloud, looking at the night sky with a complicated expression. Sometimes she frowned, sometimes she was angry, and sometimes she was annoyed and regretful. The 2 maids behind her were both at the 8th level of the Tribulation Transcendence realm. They wore golden armor and looked heroic. The maid on the left hesitated for a moment before asking, Lord Saint Emperor, are you really going to leave the Heavenly Lion Pass and hand over the power to Ji Tianxing? He had just arrived at the Heavenly Lion Pass and had yet to figure out the situation. He was also not familiar with the situation of the 3 million-strong army. In 3 days, I'm afraid he won't even be able to remember the names of the generals, and then something will happen. Lu Baishuang was actually very regretful. He felt that his approach was too immature. However, at that time, Ji Tianxing had poked at her heart, and she had also been ridiculed and teased. This had made her flustered for a moment, and she had made this absurd decision. However, now that she had calmed down, even if she wanted to return to the Heavenly Lion Pass, she could not muster the courage to do so. What do you know? Ji Tianxing is the most valued disciple of the Divine Master. His strength and talent are outstanding, and he is also the famous white-clothed killing god. He can definitely guard the Heavenly Lion Pass. Moreover, I have already instructed the great generals to take control of the situation. Even if Ji Tianxing sleeps in the Heavenly Lion Pass for 3 days, nothing will happen. The 2 maids in golden armor nodded, and they were relieved. The maid on the right asked again, Lord Saint Emperor, I saw that you were unhappy just now, and you seem to have something on your mind. Is it because of Ji Tianxing? Lu Baishuang, of course, flatly denied it. He said with a dignified expression, How is that possible? I have only met him once, and I have not even spoken a few words to him. How can I be angry with him? Don't ask any more questions. I am thinking about a serious matter. Oh. The two maids replied and looked at each other. They did not believe this statement. They were Lu Baishuang's personal bodyguards and trusted maids. They had seen Lu Baishuang and Ji Tianxing enter the conference hall and stay there for an hour. Finally, Lu Baishuang rushed out angrily, and the corners of his eyes were still wet, as if he had been bullied. However, Lu Baishuang refused to admit it, and the two maids did not dare to ask more. They could only secretly gossip and guess. Could it be that Ji Tianxing bullied Lord Saint Emperor? Ji Tianxing is so arrogant that he does not put Lord Saint Emperor in his eyes. It is very possible. Damn stinky men, none of them are good. Seeing that our Lord Saint Emperor is beautiful, he must have evil thoughts. That's right. Unfortunately, his identity is noble. Lord Saint Emperor has to consider the overall situation, and for the peace of the empire, she can only swallow his anger. Sigh. Lord Saint Emperor is so pitiful. She has been obsessed with martial arts all her life, and has worried so much for the people of the empire. She has not even met the person she likes, and she has already been taken advantage of by a lecher. However, I think that Ji Tianxing is handsome and strong. He is also the #1 God's disciple in the empire. If he really did that with our Lord Saint Emperor, it would be a good match, right? The two maids discussed secretly via voice transmission. After letting their imaginations run wild for a while, they were filled with emotions and had complicated feelings. Achoo! Ji Tianxing was observing the sand table and thinking about the battle plan when he suddenly sneezed. He did not raise his head and rubbed the tip of his nose and muttered to himself, "She must be scolding me behind my back." Sigh. Women really can't be offended. At this moment, two middle-aged generals strode into the hall with their heads held high. These two generals were the old subordinates of the right deputy marshal, and were second only to the deputy marshal. They each led an army of 200,000 soldiers. The two of them came behind Ji Tianxing and bowed respectfully. General Xiewen, Zhonglin, greets Marshal Ji. Xiewen and Zhonglin were the two deputies that Lu Baishuang had mentioned, and they had always been loyal to her. Ji Tianxing nodded and responded. The two of you are the deputies that Lu Baishuang arranged for me, right? Xiewen cupped his hands and replied, Yes. Marshal Ji, since you're new here, let this subordinate give you a brief overview of the defensive arrangements. Ji Tianxing did not answer, but asked instead, This sand table is updated daily, right? Zhonglin nodded and said, That's right. Ji Tianxing waved his hand and said, If that's the case, then you don't have to explain. I know the situation around the Heavenly Lion Pass like the back of my hand. Ah. Xiewen and Zhonglin looked at each other, and their eyes were filled with shock. It had only been an hour. Deputy Marshal Ji had just arrived, and he did not ask anything. He only looked at the sand table for a while, and he already knew the situation? He was simply a god. While the two generals were still in a daze, Ji Tianxing ordered in a dignified tone, Xiewen, Zhonglin, listen up. Immediately gather 50,000 elite soldiers at the valley at the foot of the mountain on the east side. The two of them subconsciously straightened their bodies and listened to the order respectfully. After listening, the two of them frowned and could not help but ask, Marshal Ji, why are you gathering 50,000 soldiers now? Chapter 2075. Xiewen and Zhonglin didn't understand what Ji Tianxing meant. Ji Tianxing glanced at them and said indifferently, There are 80,000 demon elites on the Qifeng Mountain outside the pass. That's a fortress that can be attacked and defended. It's also the Fang of the demon army. I'll go and pull out that Fang tonight. First, I'll raise the morale of the soldiers and give the demon army a warning. He said it casually, but when Xiewen and Zhonglin heard it, they were dumbfounded. Their eyes widened in shock. After they came back to their senses, they waved their hands and tried to persuade Ji Tianxing. Commander Ji, you can't do this. The Qifeng Mountain is the outpost of the demon army. There's a saint-level demon formation and 4 great demon kings guarding it. Deputy Commander, you once led a team to attack it, but they failed and suffered heavy casualties. Left Deputy Commander Yu Fu had also led troops to attack once, but he had also suffered a crushing defeat and had lost 60,000 soldiers. The demon army has set up an inescapable net there. Once they rush to the Qifeng Mountain, they won't be able to return. Ji Tianxing looked at them expressionlessly. He frowned and asked, "It seems that you two are scared out of your wits? Just 80,000 demons scared you like this. How are you going to deal with the millions of demon army in the future?" Xiewen and Zhonglin could only smile bitterly and continue to explain, "Commander Ji, it's not that we're scared. We can't make unnecessary sacrifices. Everyone knows that once we take down the Qifeng Mountain, the demon army will be easily divided and broken. The demon army also knows this. That's why they've invested a lot in the Qifeng Mountain. It's impregnable." "Commander Ji, I'm going a bit overboard. You've just been appointed, and you want to take the risk to attack the most difficult Qifeng Mountain. This is definitely a taboo. Once you fail, the morale will drop and the army will be unstable. It'll affect your prestige." The two tried to persuade him, but Ji Tianxing ignored them. He waved his hand and ordered, "You don't need to say more. I've made up my mind. You just need to follow my orders." Xiewen and Zhonglin's faces were filled with helplessness. They could only look at each other and smile bitterly. Sigh. Just as Lord Saint Emperor expected, Ji Tianxing really doesn't play by the rules. Before Lord Saint Emperor left, he warned us not to let him do as he pleased. I didn't expect him to cause trouble so soon. What should we do? Should we inform the Saint Emperor? What else can we do? He could only report the truth to the Saint Emperor. Otherwise, who would dare to take on this responsibility? The two of them discussed secretly for a while, and then excused themselves from Ji Tianxing and left the conference hall. On the other side, Lu Baishuang was speeding through the night sky. Suddenly, a stream of light flew over from afar and landed in her palm. When the light dissipated, a communication jade slip was revealed in his palm. Lu Baishuang quickly released his divine sense, invaded the jade slip, and read the information inside. When she finished reading the information in the jade slip, her expression changed and she frowned. "Damn you!" The moment this emperor left, he immediately became restless. Humph! This bastard! He must have deliberately angered this emperor to leave. How smart was Lu Baishuang! After leaving Sky Lion Pass in a fit of pique, she always felt that something was wrong. Now that Ji Tianxing wanted to stir up trouble, she immediately guessed Ji Tianxing's conspiracy. The two golden-armored maids saw her strange expression and asked with concern, "Lord Saint Emperor, what happened?" Lu Baishuang said in a low voice, "Ji Tianxing, that brat, gathered 50,000 soldiers overnight to attack Qifeng Mountain. He said it was to raise the morale of the soldiers and give the demons a warning." The two maids also changed their expressions. One of them shook her head and said, "This guy is too unreliable. Everyone knows that Qifeng Mountain is a fortress and also the outpost of the demons' camp. Its defense is very strong. The two deputy commanders have personally led troops to attack it, but they all failed." The other maid also quickly persuaded, "Lord Saint Emperor, in my opinion, let's go back to Sky Lion Pass. If you are not here, with Ji Tianxing's temper, he will definitely cause a lot of trouble." Lu Baishuang was a little hesitant. After thinking for a while, she said, "No need, let's go back to White Mountain City. As the saying goes, don't doubt people you use, and don't use people you doubt. Since this emperor has chosen to believe him, I will give him a chance to prove himself. Moreover, he is a person that Granny Long and the Divine Master think highly of. He should not be so shallow." Seeing that Lu Baishuang had made up her mind, the two maids could not say more. They could only keep silent. The night was dark and the wind was strong. It was cold and the ground was frozen. At the foot of the mountain on the east side of Sky Lion Pass, in a dark and cold valley, A total of 50,000 black-armored human warriors gathered in the valley in silence, standing in a neat formation. No one made any noise. Only the armor and swords reflected the cold light from time to time. Ji Tianqing, Xie Wen, and Zhong Lin stood in the night sky, looking down at the 50,000 soldiers. Ji Tianqing nodded to show his satisfaction with the soldiers' condition. After all, this was the front line of the northern battlefield. The army was strictly governed, and military orders were like mountains. Ji Tianqing took out 20 mysterious talismans from his interspatial ring and gave them to Xie Wen and Zhong Lin. Go and distribute these talismans to the 10 commanders. Give each of them 2 talismans. Xie Wen and Zhong Lin took the 20 talismans and looked at them with puzzlement. 10 of the talismans were golden, and the other 10 were red. They had different effects and functions, but they all contained powerful energy waves. Xie Wen was puzzled and asked, "Marshal Ji, what are these talismans for?" Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said with a serious face, "Of course they are very useful. Whether or not we can achieve our goal tonight will depend on these talismans." Then, he waved his hand and ordered, "Pass down my order. Everyone move out. Be sure to hide your swords and weapons well. Hide your figures and auras well." Xie Wen and Zhong Lin did not dare to say anything. They hurried to pass down the order. Soon, Ji Tianqing and the 2 generals led the 50,000 soldiers out of the valley. Under the cover of the darkness, they sneaked out of the pass. Qifeng Mountain was outside of the Sky Lion Pass. 800 li to the northeast, it was a straight and steep mountain that was thousands of zhang high. There were valleys on both sides of the mountain. At the foot of the mountain, there was a natural cave that led to the back of the mountain. Behind the mountain was a flat valley. A camp of the demon race was stationed here. There were about 400,000 elite warriors. Qifeng Mountain was easy to defend and hard to attack. Furthermore, the demon race had spent a lot of money to set up a defense. It could be said that it was unbreakable. In addition, behind the Qifeng Mountain was a vanguard camp of the demon race. There were 400,000 demon warriors in it. Once the Qifeng Mountain was about to be lost, those 400,000 demon warriors would immediately take it back. Because of this, the left and right deputy marshals had personally led troops to attack, but none of them succeeded. At this time, it was the middle of the night. There were lights on the Qifeng Mountain. From the foot of the mountain to the top, there were dozens of watchtowers. All of them were guarded by demon warriors. Chapter 2076. There was no moon tonight, and even the stars were sparse in the sky. As time went by, the night sky became darker and darker. In the night sky around the Qifeng Mountain, gray clouds gathered silently, as if a storm was coming. The mountain was still peaceful, and no one noticed anything unusual. No one believed that the human warriors of the Sky Lion Pass had the guts to attack the Qifeng Mountain. After all, the 2 deputy commanders of the Sky Lion Pass had come to attack in person, but they both failed miserably. With the terrain and defensive power of the Qifeng Mountain, they weren't afraid of the human warriors' attack at all. No one realized that a crisis was approaching. Furthermore, no one saw Ji Tianqing, who was wearing a white robe and empty-handed, swaggering up the Qifeng Mountain. He performed the secret technique of turbid sky, and his body and aura merged with the heaven and earth. Even if he passed by the powerful warriors of the demon race, no one could sense his existence. He acted alone, and arrived at the Qifeng Mountain in just a few seconds. Xie Wen and Zhong Lin were on the way to the Qifeng Mountain with 50,000 warriors. After a while, Ji Tianqing arrived at the checkpoint at the foot of the mountain. There were over 1,000 demon warriors guarding here, and over 3,000 elite warriors in the dark. It was impossible to attack by force. Ji Tianqing walked to a tall black stone tablet, and had to stop. In front of him was an invisible barrier, which was the defensive shield of the sacred level demon formation. Only the demon warriors could enter and leave. Once the alien warriors got close, they would activate the formation and be killed by the counterforce. Ji Tianqing performed the secret technique of the divine eye, and stared at the invisible formation for a long time. The invisible demon Tao formation turned into thousands of veins in his eyes, with monstrous demon power flowing in them. 15 minutes later, he suddenly showed a cold smile, and raised his eyebrows confidently. So it's the common dark shadow soul attack formation. It can distinguish between the demon race and the alien race based on the soul wave. If it's the demon race, the formation will let them through automatically. If it's the alien race, the formation will release the soul attack and kill the intruder on the spot. For ordinary warriors, the formation that involves the soul is the most difficult to break. Yu Fu and the deputy commander came to attack the Qifeng Mountain, but they didn't have a chance to break the formation secretly. They could only lead the army to attack. Of course, they suffered a great loss. Ji Tianxing understood the reason, and silently performed the secret technique of turbid sky, hiding his soul waves. After a few breaths, his soul and aura was hidden. He didn't have any soul or soul, he was just like a cold stone. Swoosh. He took a step forward and smoothly passed through the great dark shadow soul assault array, entering the array. It didn't trigger the attack of the great array, nor did it make any noise. It didn't alarm any of the demon race. After all, the dark shadow soul assault grand formation would only attack outsiders with abnormal soul fluctuations. Items that did not have life or soul waves, such as rocks, clothes, rotten wood, and so on, would not trigger any attacks. Ji Tianxing had concealed his divine soul's aura and energy waves like a rock. Of course, the formation wouldn't attack him. Swoosh. 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 After entering the formation, Ji Tianxing was unimpeded and swaggered to the top of the mountain. Along the way, he had a clear understanding of the defense of the entire mountain, the strength and distribution of the demon race. After a while, he came to the top of the mountain. The flat top of the mountain had a radius of 50 miles. A demon camp was built. In the middle, there were more than a dozen solemn black palaces. Ji Tianxing transformed into heaven and earth. Although there was no trace to be found, he could see everything in this area clearly. He clearly saw that there were more than 60,000 demon warriors in the demon camp. Most of them were recuperating. In each black palace, there were a large number of primordial soul realm experts and a few tribulation realm experts. They were all generals of the demon race. What surprised him even more was that in the middle of the majestic palace, there were more than a dozen tribulation realm experts. The dozen or so tribulation transcending realm experts of the demon clan were discussing military affairs in the solemn conference hall. Sitting at the top were 4 experts of different sizes. Their strength had reached the 5th level of the tribulation realm and above. Ji Tianxing could immediately determine that they were the 4 demon monarchs. Ha ha! Just as I expected, I caused such a big commotion in the Heavenly Lion Pass today. It will definitely alarm the spies and scouts of the demon race. The 4 demon monarchs and demon generals must have learned of the changes in the Heavenly Lion Pass and are discussing how to deal with it. Ji Tianxing sneered inwardly as he silently approached the palace. He maintained his invisible state and hid the aura and waves of his divine soul. He swaggered into the meeting hall and sat on the Godfiend's statue at the top. The 4 demon monarchs were sitting at his feet, but they did not notice him at all. They were still discussing military affairs with the demon generals. A demon monarch who looked like a bull and had 2 horns was grinning and saying, "Everyone, I have great news to tell you. I'm sure everyone has heard it, right? Today, a human expert came to the Heavenly Lion Pass and caused a big commotion. He even took away the position of deputy commander. The original left deputy commander, Yu Fu, was removed from his position in public by Holy Emperor Bai Shuang. He could not bear the humiliation and ran away. Although the demon generals had already heard of this matter, they still roared with laughter. Ha ha! What a joke! Holy Emperor Bai Shuang has always been cautious. What's wrong with her brain? It's a big taboo to change the commander at the last minute. It will definitely affect the morale of the army. Moreover, that human expert who appeared out of nowhere is very young and unfamiliar. I also heard that the young man is extremely arrogant. Not only did he cause havoc in the Heavenly Lion Pass, he also injured more than 100 generals. He. That kid isn't our spy, is he? This is a good opportunity for us. Anyway, since such a thing happened in the Heavenly Lion Pass, it must be a mess now. The morale of the army is unstable. We have to take the opportunity to attack. The 4 demon monarchs and demon generals were mocking and ridiculing this matter. They regarded it as a big joke. At the same time, this was a heaven-sent opportunity for them. After everyone laughed for a while, the leader of the demon monarchs said, "Everyone, this is indeed an unexpected surprise. It's the best opportunity for us to break through the Heavenly Lion Pass. However, Holy Emperor Bai Shuang has always been cautious. She actually removed Yu Fu and changed the commander at the last minute. I'm afraid there's a trap. I will send elite scouts to the Heavenly Lion Pass to find out more information. Once we confirm that the news is true and that the Heavenly Lion Pass is really in chaos, we have to send troops immediately. We can't delay any longer." Another demon monarch nodded in agreement. Demon Monarch and gang is right. He has already sent scouts to investigate. What we have to do is to mobilize the army as soon as possible and be on standby at any time. We have to prepare to give the Heavenly Lion Pass a thunderous blow. When the demon generals heard this, they all rubbed their fists and their blood boiled. Ji Tianxing secretly sneered. "You only think of attacking the Heavenly Lion Pass now? It's too late." Chapter 2077. Swoosh. The terrifying divine power of heaven and earth turned into an invisible palm and suddenly grabbed the head of a demon monarch. This demon monarch's strength had reached the 6th level of the Crossing Calamity Realm. However, he did not notice the invisible giant palm at all. Crack! With a crisp cracking sound, this demon monarch's head was crushed on the spot. His flesh and blood splattered everywhere, and his brains splattered all over the ground. Even his soul was crushed, and he died on the spot. The other 3 demon monarchs, and more than a dozen demon generals, were happily discussing the matter of dispatching troops. The sudden turn of events caused the hall to fall silent. Everyone was stunned. Everyone stared at the headless corpse of the demon monarch in horror and slowly fell to the ground. The air seemed to have frozen. Everyone forgot to breathe. Their hearts were filled with shock and confusion. After a while, everyone came back to their senses. Suddenly, they burst into an uproar and exclaimed, "Damn it! How could this be? The demon monarch has been fine. Why did his head suddenly burst? Someone must have attacked him. Everyone, search and find the assassin." "It's impossible. We were all sitting in the main hall. Not to mention that we did not see the attacker. There was not even a trace of danger." More than a dozen demon generals were in a panic. They took out their swords and sabers and looked around for the assassin. The 3 demon monarchs' faces were very ugly. They also released their divine senses to cover the entire Qifeng Mountain to investigate the abnormal situation and aura. Ji Tianxing sat on the demon god statue and looked down at the main hall. Seeing everyone in a mess and panicking, he could not help but sneer. Although he was close at hand, no one discovered his existence. After a full 100 breaths, the 3 demon monarchs and more than a dozen demon generals still did not find anything. At this time, Demon Monarch and gang said, "This matter is too strange. Everyone, please calm down. I have already checked the corpse and can confirm that someone attacked secretly. However, we did not find any trace of the assassin. This assassin's strength must be very powerful. That's why we can't find any traces. I and the 2 demon monarchs will sit here. Generals, quickly mobilize the scouts and search the entire Qifeng Mountain." Hearing his words, the dozen or so demon generals looked at each other in dismay, revealing awkward expressions. Devil Monarch and gang, Isn't our chiefing mountain protected by a saint-level formation? How could an assassin sneak in? If it was really done by an assassin, not only would he be able to break into the sacred array, he would also be able to kill the demon king silently. Wouldn't the assassin's strength be at the martial sage realm? Martial saints acting as assassins? The Heavenly Lion Pass only has 2 martial saints. One is Holy Emperor by Shuang and the other is Yu Fu. It's definitely not that trash Yu Fu. The only possibility is Holy Emperor by Shuang. She personally took action. Just as the crowd was discussing animatedly, Ji Tianxing silently made his move again. He once again manipulated the divine power of heaven and earth to form a formless fist aura, which he hurled toward the head of a demon monarch. The demon lord had long been on his guard. Sensing the approaching danger, he subconsciously moved 3 zhang away, instinctively avoiding the danger. However, his speed was too slow. Boom! There was another explosion and the demon lord's head exploded on the spot. It exploded like a watermelon, with purple blood and broken bones splattering everywhere. The demon lord's spiritual soul was also shattered into pieces, mixed with blood and flesh, and scattered on the floor of the main hall. The 2 demon generals who were closer to the demon lord were still stained with blood. They were so frightened that their faces turned pale and they hurriedly took a few steps back. In the next moment, the demon lord's headless corpse slowly fell to the ground with a plop sound. The 10 demon generals were dumbfounded. Their eyes were wide open and they were filled with fear. The 2 demon lords who were lucky enough to survive were already prepared. When Ji Tianxing made his move, they finally caught a glimpse of his aura. Although they could not see Ji Tianxing's figure, they could determine Ji Tianxing's position. The 2 of them let out a low roar and attacked Ji Tianxing together. "You are courting death! Show yourself!" Demon Lord and Gang raised his fists and blasted out 2 blood-red fist auras. The other demon lord gripped his heavy sword and viciously slashed out a massive blade of black light. Ji Tianxing remained invisible. With a whoosh, he teleported out of the main hall and dodged the attacks of the 2 demon lords. The 2 massive fist auras and the blade of black light struck the walls of the conference hall at the same time. Rumble! The walls of the hall were blasted apart, sending countless shards of stone flying everywhere. The entire wall collapsed, and the conference hall was also on the verge of collapse. A muffled boom resounded through the night sky, immediately alarming countless patrolling guards. A large number of patrolling guards hurried to the conference hall as quickly as possible to investigate the situation. The palaces and barracks in all directions also lit up with lights, and there was a burst of noise. The 2 demon lords, having failed in their attack, rushed out of the conference hall and continued their search for Ji Tianxing. The 10 demon generals also panicked. They all gripped their weapons and formed a circle with their backs against each other, guarding against Ji Tianxing's sudden attack. But all of this was futile. Ji Tianxing quickly attacked again. While a demon lord was searching the area, he used the same trick again. He used the divine power of heaven and earth to condense a massive sword and viciously slash down. The demon lord sensed something amiss and promptly brandished his heavy sword to block. But with his weak strength, how could he block Ji Tianxing's attack? Boom! Crack! With a loud boom, he was cleaved in 2 by the invisible sword. The heavy sword in his hand was also sent flying. The 3rd demon lord was also killed, leaving only demon lord and Gang alive. Such a scene left demon monarch and Gang horrified. He was infuriated to the point of madness. "Who is it? Get out here for this lord. What kind of expert are you to hide in the dark and ambush? If you have the guts, show yourself and fight this lord for 300 rounds." Demon Lord and Gang brandished a treasured saber and roared in grief and indignation. The 10 demon generals were scared out of their wit. They knew that the assassin's strength was extremely terrifying, so they did not dare to stay any longer. Swish! 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 They actually scattered and quickly fled the assembly hall, burrowing into the surrounding darkness. Ji Tianxing saw everything clearly. He used his ultimate move again and charged at Demon Lord and gang. Star-shattering fist. He suddenly appeared behind Demon Lord and gang. His fists blasted out resplendent silver starlight that enveloped Demon Lord and gang's figure. Demon Lord and gang sensed the aura of death descend upon him and immediately felt his soul leave his body. His eyes revealed an intense look of despair. His body flashed with purple light as he donned a supreme-grade tribulation-level armor. He held a treasured saber with both hands and slashed at Ji Tianxing with all his might. Boom! Crack! With a thunderous boom, Demon Monarch and gang was sent flying. The armor shattered into countless fragments, mixed with flesh and blood, scattering into the ruins. The treasured saber was also sent flying, stabbing into a broken wall. Chapter 2078. The Chiefing Mountain was in chaos. In the middle of the night, the mountain was brightly lit. Fire was everywhere. Countless demon warriors in armor and holding swords were searching for assassins in a hurry. Many scouts flew into the sky and used secret techniques to search the entire Chiefing Mountain. Of course, the news that the 4 great demon kings were assassinated spread out in the camp. Dozens of generals were terrified. They hurriedly sent out messages asking for help. Tens of thousands of demons were in a mess. They were running around in the camp. There were even deserters. Ji Tianxing didn't stay idle. He was still in his invisible state, creating chaos on the Chiefing Mountain. Wherever there were many people, no matter if it was a mansion, a palace or a camp, he would release 2 of his secret techniques to smash it. All kinds of dazzling lights and shadows of spells smashed down with the power to destroy the heaven and earth, making loud rumbling noises. Along with the explosions, palaces and camps turned into ashes one after another in the blazing light and shadows. Groups of demon soldiers were smashed into pieces on the spot. They didn't even have whole corpses left. In a short time of 100 breaths, Ji Tianxing had killed more than 20,000 demon soldiers. The entire peak of the Chiefing Mountain had become a mess. There were broken walls, deep pits and cracks everywhere. The remaining tens of thousands of demon soldiers were scared out of their wits. They roared and cursed angrily and helplessly. Unfortunately, they couldn't find Ji Tianxing. They had nowhere to vent their anger. They could only retreat and find a place to hide. Ji Tianxing calculated the time. Xie Wen and Zhong Lin were about to arrive at the Chiefing Mountain with 50,000 soldiers. Therefore, he flew to the mountain guarding formation at the foot of the mountain and started to break the formation. The Chiefing Mountain was in chaos. Tens of thousands of demon soldiers were scared out of their wits. No one came to stop him. Another 100 breaths passed. He broke the holy level formation and made several holes in the defensive light shield. Finally, Xie Wen and Zhong Lin arrived with 50,000 soldiers. Ji Tianxing was hiding in the night sky. He used his soul to communicate with Xie Wen, Zhong Lin and the 10 commanders. Soon, the 2 generals led the 50,000 soldiers through the 5 openings and into the mountain guarding formation. Originally, the soldiers were apprehensive and they feared the Chiefing Mountain from the bottom of their hearts. But when they saw that the Chiefing Mountain was in a mess, fire was everywhere, and the demons were running away in panic, their morale was immediately boosted. Xie Wen and Zhong Lin were filled with excitement as they led the 50,000 soldiers to kill the enemy from the foot of the mountain all the way to the peak. Normally, the demons were ferocious and valiant, and they were the least afraid of close combat. But tonight was different. More than 60,000 demon soldiers were in chaos, making it very difficult for them to organize an effective counterattack. Unexpectedly, they couldn't withstand the attacks of the human warriors, and were forced to retreat step by step, constantly retreating to the mountaintop. Ji Tianxing continued to cast spells in the dark, constantly bombarding the devil experts, causing the devil soldiers to be attacked from the front and rear, falling into a desperate situation. Many of the demon generals despaired. Knowing that they would not be able to escape death tonight, they resolved to die and led their remaining soldiers in a counterattack. They didn't hope to defeat the human soldiers. They just wanted to buy some time and wait for reinforcements to arrive. After all, they had already sent out a request for reinforcements. The army camp behind the Chiefing Mountain also sent out a large number of devil soldiers, and they were rushing over with the fastest speed to provide reinforcements. At the same time, Ji Tianxing also sent out a message inscribed Jade Slip back to Heavenly Lion Pass. The content of the message inscribed Jade Slip was a military order. He ordered the 200,000 fully equipped soldiers to rush to the Chiefing Mountain with the fastest speed to fight the devil army. In reality, before Ji Tianxing set out, he already had a detailed plan. He personally killed his way to the Chiefing Mountain, assassinated the 4 great demon monarchs, and destroyed the Saint-level mountain protecting formation. Xie and Zhonglin led the 50,000 soldiers to follow closely behind and launch a raid, and they would be able to capture the Chiefing Mountain in one fell swoop. But Ji Tianxing knew that the devil army camp behind the Chiefing Mountain would definitely send out reinforcements in the shortest amount of time. Therefore, he left a backup plan before he set out. He secretly gathered the 200,000 soldiers, prepared the army for war, and was ready to reinforce at any time. Now, everything was developing according to Ji Tianxing's plan. The time was finally ripe. Kill! Kill all the devils, don't leave a single one alive. Tonight we must capture the Chiefing Mountain. Xie and Zhonglin, the 2 generals, led the soldiers to kill the enemy bravely, and their morale rose higher and higher. The shouts and roars of the 2 armies, the crisp sounds of weapons clashing, and the explosions of secret techniques reverberated on the Chiefing Mountain endlessly. After a short 15 minutes, the human soldiers captured the Chiefing Mountain. After this battle, the 80,000 devil soldiers were all slaughtered, and only a few thousand escaped from the Chiefing Mountain. Such a result was very rare, and it was a complete victory. Ji Tianxing alone killed more than 20,000 devils, including 4 great demon monarchs, 12 demon generals, and dozens of commanders. Such a battle record could be said to be shocking, and his military exploits were splendid. All the human soldiers who participated in this battle were in awe of Ji Tianxing, and they admired him very much. Of course, the human soldiers also suffered casualties. More than 8,000 people died in the battle, more than 7,000 were injured, and only 30,000 people could still fight. Ji Tianxing decisively ordered the 30,000 soldiers to defend the Chiefing Mountain, and at the same time, he sent people to take care of the wounded. Just as the soldiers got into the defensive formation, a deafening battle cry came from the foot of the Chiefing Mountain. A mighty blood-red flood arrived at the foot of the mountain with a strong murderous intent. That was the army camp behind the Chiefing Mountain. It was the vanguard army sent to support, and there were more than 100,000 of them. The leader was a demon monarch, and there were more than a dozen strong warriors of the Zhenqi realm under his command. The army came aggressively, and they rushed up the Chiefing Mountain without caring about anything else. Soon, they crossed the protective formation of the mountain. The protective formation of the mountain would stop the alien races, but it was useless against the devils, and they could go in and out freely. Therefore, the army of 100,000 devils quickly climbed up the Chiefing Mountain. When the human race soldiers guarding the mountain peak saw the demon race soldiers swarming in from all directions, they were immediately filled with worry and despair. They had just won the battle and captured the Chiefing Mountain. However, the devil army came to support them, and they would be wiped out soon. Just as the soldiers were panicking, Ji Tianxing appeared. He turned into a golden giant hundreds of feet tall, and like a god of war, he rushed towards the devil army with a huge black sword. At the same time, a few huge creatures appeared behind him. Chirp! A huge strange fish that was thousands of feet long and covered in ice blue gave out a strange chirp. It flapped its wide wings, opened its bloody mouth, and spat out a monstrous icy blue flame towards the demon race army. After the menacing devil race army was enveloped by the icy blue flowing fire, they were immediately burned to ashes without leaving any bones behind. In the blink of an eye, more than 2,000 devil soldiers were killed. Roar! Suddenly, a huge black monster rushed out from the steep hillside. It opened its huge mouth and spat out golden flames, incinerating thousands of demon race soldiers. It swung its tail, and 10 miles of land collapsed, burying thousands of devils. Chapter 2079. In addition to the blue koan and the Ksitigarbha divine armor, there was also an ancient tree that was thousands of feet tall behind Ji Tianxing. The ancient tree took root in the ground and stretched out 100,000 thick and strong branches, crazily whipping the demon soldiers. It was Ancestor Sanju. It had already passed the heavenly tribulation and reached the first level of the tribulation transcendence realm. This was despite the fact that it was not very powerful. It was more than enough to deal with ordinary demon soldiers. Moreover, it took root in the ground and used 100,000 branches to attack. It released an overwhelming attack like a huge city wall. Even if the demon soldiers rushed over like a tide, they would not be able to break through its defense for a while. It became the second obstacle for the demon army, firmly guarding the human soldiers on the mountain peak. The first obstacle was naturally Ji Tianxing and the 2 giant beasts. They were like tigers in a flock of sheep, rampaging through the demon army and slaughtering wantonly. Seeing Ji Tianxing so tyrannical, the leading demon monarch hurriedly brought the 10 blood gods' illusions to attack. The strength of the 10 blood gods' illusions was not ordinary. They had all reached the first and second level of the tribulation transcendence realm. The uniqueness of the blood gods' illusions made them invincible existences on the battlefield and the most terrifying nightmare of the human soldiers. They had a near-immortal body and could release all kinds of plagues, disasters, and poisons. They could slaughter human soldiers on a large scale. A blood god's illusions at the second level of the tribulation transcendence realm were more lethal than a human martial monarch. The demon monarch led the 10 blood gods' illusions and surrounded Ji Tianxing without any explanation and launched a fierce attack. Not only did Ji Tianxing not panic, he even laughed loudly and said a few good words. The demon monarch was baffled. He did not know why he had such a reaction. However, he soon understood that he had encountered an incomparably terrifying monster. Ji Tianxing held the Burial of Heaven sword in his right hand and the 5-colored divine lightning in his left hand. He charged into the battle formation in an invincible manner and quickly killed 3 blood gods' illusions. The blood gods' illusions were proud of their undying bodies, but under the bombardment of the 5-colored divine lightning, they were as fragile as paper. Ji Tianxing used the power of thunder to destroy blood god's sun. He then released a sacred white light that immediately devoured blood god's sun. In just 20 breaths of time, he had killed 5 blood gods' illusions. The remaining blood gods' clones were terrified. The demon monarch was also shocked and quickly retreated with the blood gods' clones. Unfortunately, escaping was destined to be an extravagant hope. Ji Tianxing chased after them and quickly killed the remaining 5 blood gods. The demon lord was chased to the foot of the mountain and instantly killed by Ji Tianxing in 2 moves. The death of the general and the blood god's son greatly damaged the morale of the demon army. At this time, the 10 human commanders took out the talismans that Ji Tianxing had given them. At the same time, they took out a dark golden thunder talisman and threw it at the demon army. Instantly, each heavenly thunder talisman turned into dazzling lightning, condensing into several heavenly thunders that were thousands of feet tall. Boom! Boom! Deafening claps of thunder suddenly exploded in the night sky, spreading for thousands of miles. Dozens of lightning pillars blossomed with dazzling lightning at the same time, making the night sky beautiful and colorful. However, the dazzling heavenly thunder's destructive power was also terrifying. At least 20,000 demon soldiers were obliterated on the spot, reduced to pitch-black ash. More than half of the Qifeng mountain was also destroyed, turning into ruins full of ravines. Such terrifying power made the demon army tremble in fear. Many people hesitated and did not dare to charge forward. Many demon generals also had different opinions. They even quarreled about whether to attack or retreat. Ji Tianxing took the blue Kuan and the Xitigarbha divine armor to kill the demon soldiers. The situation became more chaotic. The demon soldiers were constantly injured and their numbers were sharply decreasing. The 30,000 human soldiers on the mountain peak were also motivated to fight. They actually blocked the demon army's attack. The two sides fought fiercely. The earth shook and the mountains shook. Light and shadows filled the sky. The loud sounds did not disappear for a long time. Half an hour later, more than half of the 100,000 demon army was slaughtered. Only 30,000 remained. These demon army lost their fighting spirit. They all turned and fled down the mountain. More than 10,000 of the 30,000 human soldiers also died. However, they won again and defended the Qifeng mountain. Taking advantage of the demon army's defeat, the human soldiers stayed on the mountain peak and quickly treated their wounds and recuperated. An hour later, the second devil race army arrived. This time, the demon army's numbers reached 150,000. The majority of the demon army climbed up the Qifeng mountain and rushed to the mountain peak like a black tide. There were also a small number of demon army experts that attacked directly from the night sky and killed the human soldiers on the mountain peak. Blue Kuan blocked the demon army experts in the night sky. The Xitigarbha divine armor and forefather Sanju blocked the demon army on the ground. Ji Tianxing controlled the situation. He held the burial of Heaven's sword and started a massacre. Xiewen and Zhonglin also fought bravely. They swore to resist the charge of the demon army to the death. The 10 commanders also used the talismans that Ji Tianxing gave them. Those were red talismans that flew into the night sky and burned. They immediately became outer heavenly jewel fire that covered the sky. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The dark red and dazzling heavenly jewel fire poured down from the sky. Like 10 enormous jewel fire waterfalls, they drowned the demon army. Instantly, the demon army suffered heavy casualties. Countless demon army soldiers were burned by the jewel fire. They let out heart-wrenching screams, rolling and crying in the sea of fire. One after another, pitch-black corpses fell in the sea of fire and were burned to ash. In a few breaths, more than 20,000 demon army soldiers died in the outer heavenly jewel fire. The demon army soldiers were even more sorrowful. The morale of the human soldiers was high. This battle was very tragic. Every moment, hundreds of thousands of people died. Their corpses turned into minced meat that scattered on the cold mountain peak. Crimson human blood and purple and black demon blood mixed together and formed a small stream. For 45 minutes, the demon army was unable to reach the peak of the mountain. Instead, they lost more than 40,000 soldiers. Ji Tianxing took credit for himself. He personally killed the leading general, more than a dozen demon generals, and a few blood god sons. Because of this, the human soldiers were able to defend the peak of the mountain. They only sacrificed more than 8,000 people. It seemed that the battle was about to come to an end. The 30,000 demon army soldiers, who were lucky enough to survive, had lost the protection of their general and powerhouses. They could only retreat in defeat. The 20,000 human soldiers on the peak of the mountain also heaved a sigh of relief. At this moment, there was another roar at the foot of the mountain. The light of Dharma power lit up the sky. However, it was not the demon army. It was the reinforcements from the Sky Lion Pass. A total of 200,000 reinforcements were divided into two groups. One group of reinforcements surrounded the 30,000 demon army soldiers who fled in defeat. The other group of reinforcements crossed the Qifeng mountain and killed their way to the army camp behind. Seeing this, the human warriors who were trapped on the mountaintop all burst into exclamations and cheers in surprise and excitement. They could not believe that a large number of reinforcements had arrived so quickly. Chapter 2080. Seeing the 200,000 reinforcements, Xie and Zhonglin were also stunned. The two of them looked at each other with puzzled expressions. What's going on? Why did Sky Lion Pass send reinforcements? Commander Ji only asked us to gather 50,000 soldiers. Why are there 200,000 reinforcements here? Those 200,000 reinforcements are the subordinates of General Li and General Wang. They are the trusted subordinates of the right deputy commander. Could it be that they received the news and came here to help after seeing the battle at Chiefeng Mountain? That's impossible. Without the commander's order, who dares to lead the troops out of the pass? Not to mention attacking the most dangerous Chiefeng Mountain? That's right. Even if they saw the battle and hurriedly gathered the troops here, they can't be so fast. There's only one possibility. Commander Ji has already arranged for them to gather the troops and wait for reinforcements at Chiefeng Mountain. Oh my God! Marshal Ji's foresight is godly. Did you already foresee this outcome? Xie and Zhonglin discussed for a while and finally came to a conclusion. The two were dumbfounded. Their hearts were filled with astonishment and disbelief. When they looked at Ji Tianxing's back, their hearts were filled with reverence, and their eyes were filled with worship. As expected of the god of killing in white who can fight against millions of troops with one sword. Not only is his combat power outstanding, but he can also predict the enemy's moves. He's simply the best commander in the world. With Commander Ji guarding Sky Lion Pass and assisting Lord Holy Emperor, why should we worry about not winning? From this moment on, Xie and Zhonglin were conquered by Ji Tianxing's tactic. A commander who was terrifyingly powerful and could command troops like a god was definitely an invincible god of war. Following such a commander, why should they worry about not being able to make a name for themselves? The facts proved that every change in the battle was under Ji Tianxing's control. The 100,000 reinforcements quickly annihilated the demon army at the foot of the mountain. Then, they passed through Chiefeng Mountain and rushed to the demon camp at the back. The 20,000 soldiers guarding Chiefeng Mountain hurriedly strengthened the defense and recuperated. Ji Tianxing didn't stop. He brought Lan Kuan, Xitigarbha godly armor and old ancestor San Ju to the demon camp at the back of the mountain. Originally, there were 400,000 demon soldiers stationed in the demon camp. Previously, the demon camp sent out 250,000 soldiers to reinforce the Chiefeng Mountain, but they all returned in defeat. Only 30,000 of them managed to escape back to the demon camp. The demon camp was shaken from top to bottom, and many of the generals were furious. Before they could regroup, Ji Tianxing arrived with 200,000 soldiers. He was still like a peerless god of death, unleashing his all-encompassing methods, blasting the devil race's main camp into disarray. The two divine beasts and old ancestor San Ju followed Ji Tianxing and charged bravely, slaughtering batch after batch of devil warriors. The demon race was utterly defeated, their morale plummeting to the extreme. With the prestige of victory, the human army naturally had high morale and marched forward with indomitable will. Ji Tianxing was leading the way, specifically killing the generals, blood god's sons, and experts of the demon race. He was simply killing anyone who stood in his way. No one was a match for him. This bitter decisive battle quickly became a one-sided massacre. When Ji Tianxing and the two divine beasts killed all of the generals and experts of the demon race's main camp, the demon race's main camp was breached. The battle lasted for 2 hours, and then it was declared to be over. The 180,000 demon race's main army was almost completely annihilated, and only 10,000 or so people fled in all directions. On the side of the human army, only 20,000 or so people died, and 30,000 or so were injured. At this point, the human army had won a great victory, and successfully occupied the Chiefeng Mountain. After the battle, the various commanders brought their soldiers to clean up the battlefield and treat the wounded. The 4 generals hurriedly rushed in front of Ji Tianxing, and excitedly reported the results of the battle. Ji Tianxing had already put away the two divine beasts and old ancestor Sanju, and let them rest in the sword world. He stood proudly on the Shifeng Mountain, listening to the four generals report the news. After listening, he showed a gratified smile and nodded. Tonight, Ben Shuai mobilized a total of 250,000 soldiers to attack the Shifeng Mountain. Although it was a risky move, it was beyond everyone's expectations, and achieved great result. Our army only lost 50,000 people, and 40,000 or so were injured, but we annihilated more than 400,000 demon race's main army, and successfully occupied the Shifeng Mountain. Such outstanding battle results and meritorious service will definitely spread throughout the northern battlefield, and greatly increase the morale of our army. You guys are very sensible, and very cooperative with Ben Shuai's actions. Ben Shuai will definitely reward you according to your merits, and put you in important positions. Ji Tianxing was very satisfied with the results of the battle, but he did not claim the credit, and even expressed that he would put the four generals in important positions. The four generals immediately had complicated feelings, and were filled with gratitude and joy, and bowed one after another. Many thanks for General Ji's appreciation and praise. This general will definitely be loyal to his duty, and follow your orders, Zhong Lin said with a sincere tone. Xie Wen cupped his fists and bowed, and said in a sonorous tone, General Ji has contributed greatly to this great victory. This general and the others do not dare to take the credit. If you did not sneak into the Shifeng Mountain first, kill the four demon kings, and kill many demon generals and blood godsons, we would not be able to win. If General Ji did not use the army like a god, and take every possibility into account, tonight would not have gone so smoothly. General Li's face was full of smiles, and he said with a flushed face, General Ji's martial prowess is extraordinary, and you use the army like a god. This is simply rare in this world. This general is completely convinced. General Ji, please do not worry. From now on, this general will follow your lead, and will do his best to be loyal to you. General Wang hesitated for a moment, and then said with a face full of shame, I am ashamed to say this, but General Ji secretly ordered this general to gather 100,000 soldiers and prepare to attack the Shifeng Mountain at any time. At that time, this general was still very hesitant, and thought that we would not be able to return tonight, and that we might die on the battlefield. But after seeing General Ji's strength and methods, I had a trace of hope and fantasy in my heart, so I chose to take the risk. Unexpectedly, this general made the right bet. General Ji's strength, ability, courage have all made this old man admire you greatly. This old man is willing to follow General Ji. The reactions of the four generals were all within Ji Tianxing's expectations. He only listened with a face full of smiles, and did not say anything more. After the four generals finished speaking, he then said with a confident tone, The four generals are willing to believe in Ben Shuai, and that is why there will be tonight's great victory. However, Ben Shuai has already said that taking down the Shifeng Mountain is only the beginning, and it is only used to raise the morale of the soldiers. Are you satisfied with this little bit of victory and military merit? Ha ha ha, follow Ben Shuai and do your job well. Ben Shuai will let you see what it means to be victorious in every battle, and to be invincible. The four generals were all infected by Ji Tianxing's aura, and their blood was boiling. Their hearts were filled with excitement and expectation. General Ji, please do not worry, this general will be loyal to you until death. It is this general's honor to follow General Ji into battle. The four of them cupped their fists and bowed at the same time, and their attitude became more humble and respectful. Ji Tianxing waved his hand and ordered, General Wang and General Li, stay here and lead 100,000 soldiers to guard the Shifeng Mountain. Xie Wen and Zhong Lin, lead the rest of the soldiers and follow Ben Shuai back to the Sky Lion Pass. Chapter 2081. Resolving the demon race's chaos at the northern battlefront and saving the Luo River God Nation's fate was something Ji Tianxing had to do. It was to repay the kindness of the Luo River god nation and also to weaken the North Underworld mountain. It was also to make preparations to eliminate the ancestor demon god in the future. Ji Tianxing already had a plan in mind, which was why it went so smoothly and created such amazing miracles and military exploit. Sky Lion Pass could not take down the Qifeng Mountain after a long time and did not even dare to attack it again. However, he took it down in one night. Not only did he take down the Qifeng Mountain, he also wiped out more than 400,000 demon race soldiers with minimal casualties. This news quickly spread back to the Sky Lion Pass, causing the 3 million soldiers to be shocked and in disbelief. However, this was an undeniable fact and no one could doubt it. While the millions of soldiers were shocked, they also admired and praised Ji Tianxing's military tactics and ability. No one expected that he would give the Sky Lion Pass such a big gift on the night he took over as the deputy commander. It was too shocking and it raised the morale of the soldiers. The entire Sky Lion Pass was filled with jubilation and was bustling with noise and excitement. The soldiers' blood was boiling and they were full of ambition. They all wanted to rush to the battlefield immediately and achieve their goals. Especially after Ji Tianxing returned to the Sky Lion Pass. He rewarded the meritorious officials with great fanfare and compensated the soldiers who were injured or killed. This move attracted the hearts of the people, stimulating the blood of those soldiers with lofty aspirations, and making them wish they could immediately join him. It was the good fortune of the 3 million soldiers to have such a powerful and godlike commander. Previously, many soldiers found it hard to accept his rude and domineering behavior when he chased Yu Fu away, and they talked about him behind his back. However, after the Battle of the Qifeng Mountain, those soldiers who were neutral immediately respected and revered him. Even those soldiers who talked about him behind his back obediently shut their mouth. They could not help but admire him in their hearts. To the soldiers who had died on the battlefield, only powerful martial strength and iron-forged military achievements were the most convincing. Now Ji Tianxing did it. Moreover, it was beyond everyone's expectations. Who dared to not submit to him? Many hot-blooded and warlike soldiers even felt that they had finally made it. Finally, they didn't have to hide in the Heavenly Lion Pass anymore. They finally had a chance to kill their way out of the pass and slaughter the demon race. The hundreds of thousands of soldiers who returned in triumph praised Ji Tianxing to the heavens and worshipped him as a god. When he talked about the great battle that night, he was full of pride and glory. The soldiers guarding the Heavenly Lion Pass were naturally envious and jealous. They wished that they could personally participate in the battle and enjoy this glory. For the next 2 days, the Heavenly Lion Pass was not peaceful. Millions of officers and soldiers were filled with anticipation and were ready to set out at any time. They all wanted to follow Ji Tianxing to victory and also wanted to witness his invincible demeanor with their own eyes. Ji Tianxing was not idle either. He made bold and decisive changes, adjusting the positions and ranks of the generals. The loyal and trusted generals that Yu Fu had left behind were all demoted to idle positions without any real power. Those generals who were willing to obey his orders and serve him with their lives would be promoted and placed in important positions. They would be given real power. The 4 people who benefited the most were of course Xie Wen, Zhong Lin, General Li and General Wang. They became the most favored generals under his command. This way of doing things was undoubtedly a signal. The current Heavenly Lion Pass was completely under Ji Tianxing's control. It had become his sole say. Whoever dared to disobey his orders and go against him would not have a good ending. Only those who were loyal to him and worked hard for him would have a chance to be put in important positions. Many generals who were talented but had different ideas from Yu Fu's had waited for the day to come and saw the opportunity to make a name for themselves. However, there were also a few narrow-minded people who talked about Ji Tianxing behind his back. They said that he eliminated those who disagreed with him and that he was arbitrary and domineering. Ji Tianxing did not care about these rumors at all. He was too lazy to pay attention to them. This was because he had his own things to do. He had a set goal that he had yet to complete. He had no time to waste. Inside White Mountain City, in a magnificent palace, in a quaint and elegant study room, Lu Baishuang was sitting in front of a table, seriously reviewing memorials and handling the affairs of the Empire of White Frost. Since leaving Heavenly Lion Pass and coming to White Mountain City, she had been busy for 2 days and 2 nights. She had not slept a wink. The Empire of White Frost was the latest to be established among the various empires. Its foundation was also the most shallow. It could not withstand too many twists and turns. Now that the demon army was pressing on the border of the Empire of White Frost, how could she be at ease? Under internal and external troubles, she worked day and night. She could not split herself up and was physically and mentally exhausted. Suddenly, a maid walked quickly into the study room and bowed respectfully in front of her. Reporting to Lord Saint Emperor, there is an urgent military report. Hearing this, Lu Baishuang immediately put down the memorials and asked with a serious expression, "What happened? Did something happen in Heavenly Lion Pass?" The maid did not dare to hide anything. She could only lower her head and report truthfully, "Lord Saint Emperor is wise. That is exactly what happened. Just last night, Deputy General Ji Tianxing secretly gathered 50,000 soldiers led by Generals Xie Wen and Zhong Lin. They rushed 800 miles to attack Qifeng Mountain outside the pass." Suddenly hearing this news, Lu Baishuang immediately frowned, and his eyes flashed with anger. "Damn it! As expected, he is the one causing trouble. I had guessed it long ago. He deliberately angered me so that he could stir up trouble. But I did not expect that he would be so impatient. He launched an attack on the night he took over as Deputy General. Moreover, he only brought 50,000 soldiers to attack Qifeng Mountain, which is the most dangerous place. Isn't this nonsense?" Lu Baishuang was so angry that her face turned pale. She slammed her palm on the table. She stood up and ordered coldly, "This Ji Tianxing is too unreliable. He is simply arrogant and ignorant. No, I have to rush back to Heavenly Lion Pass immediately. I have to watch over him personally to prevent him from making an irreversible mistake." In Lu Baishuang's view, Ji Tianxing only brought 50,000 soldiers to die. It could be considered a blessing in disguise. But the maid's next words made her eyes go dark. "Lord Saint Emperor, Deputy General Ji brought 50,000 soldiers to Qifeng Mountain and launched an attack at night. He also secretly ordered General Li and General Wang to gather 200,000 troops and follow closely behind to reinforce Qifeng Mountain." "What?" Lu Baishuang's eyes widened again. She cursed even more angrily, "Damn bastard! It's not enough that he killed 50,000 soldiers. He even wants 200,000 soldiers to die. Qifeng Mountain is easy to defend and hard to attack. It is also the outpost of the demon camp. There are 400,000 demon soldiers stationed behind the mountain. If 200,000 soldiers go there, it will be no different from sending lambs to the tiger's mouth." Lu Baishuang could not sit still anymore. She immediately wanted to return to Heavenly Lion Pass. But the maid continued, "Lord Saint Emperor, please do not be impatient. What this subordinate has just said is all Lord Ji's arrangements. Now, our army has won a great victory. Qifeng Mountain has already been captured by Lord Ji." Chapter 2082. Lu Baishuang was stunned for a few seconds before she slowly came back to her senses. Even so, she still couldn't accept this result. Her face was full of disbelief. "You just said that he led 250,000 soldiers to attack Qifeng Mountain at night and won?" Lu Baishuang stared at the maid and asked in a low and slow voice. The maid didn't understand, but she quickly nodded and said with a smile, "Lord Saint Emperor, that's right. Lord Ji really took down the Qifeng Mountain and killed more than 400,000 devil soldiers. Now the whole Sky Lion Pass is boiling. 3 million soldiers are talking about Lord G's strength and ability. All the soldiers are praising him for predicting the enemy's moves and using troops like a god. He's simply the reincarnation of the god of war. Lu Baishuang finally recovered, but she couldn't help but shake her head and say, "How is this possible? He only brought 250,000 soldiers, but he was able to take down Qifeng Mountain and kill more than 400,000 demons? No matter what, this news sounds like a heavenly book. How can people believe it?" The maid didn't know the situation well enough, so she didn't dare to say anything. She could only explain, "Lord Saint Emperor, I don't know the details and can't help you. But you can send a message and ask the generals guarding Sky Lion Pass. You will know if it's true or not." Lu Baishuang gradually woke up from the shock and said angrily, "Xie and Zhonglin, those two bastards, I arranged them to be Ji Tianxing's deputies. Before I left, I told them that if Ji Tianxing had any strange movements, they should immediately inform me. It's already been 2 days, but they only reported it now?" Seeing that Lu Baishuang was angry, the maid quickly bowed and said, "Lord Saint Emperor, please calm down. The 2 generals can't be blamed for this matter. After all, this was Lord Ji's order. Lord Ji said that taking down Qifeng Mountain is only the first step. He has more important things that he hasn't done yet. Before reaching the goal, this news must be kept secret." Lu Baishuang finally calmed down, but when she heard this sentence, her heart tightened again. What kind of tricks is that brat playing? "I don't know." The maidservant bowed and left respectfully. Lu Baishuang was left alone in the study room. He frowned and thought to himself, "No, since I said that I would trust him, I should show an attitude of trust." Plus, he had already created a miracle and conquered the Qifeng Mountain. The more crucial it is, the more this emperor cannot return to Heavenly Lion Pass. Otherwise, he will bear a grudge against me. Not only can I not blame him for acting rashly, but I also have to pass a decree praising him for his ability to command troops and his outstanding achievements. Lu Baishuang's mood was very complicated. He was shocked and puzzled at the same time. He was a little angry, but he also felt fortunate. She hesitated for a long time before she made up her mind and sent a message to Ji Tianxing. After sending the communication jade slip, she patiently waited for Ji Tianxing's reply. In her mind, she had already let bygones be bygones and was no longer angry with Ji Tianxing. As a man, Ji Tianxing would definitely put aside his previous prejudice and reply to her message. Moreover, she was the commander-in-chief of the Empire of White Frost, and Ji Tianxing was her deputy commander-in-chief, her subordinate. It was reasonable for her to send a message to report the news. However, Lu Baishuang miscalculated again. She waited for a whole day and night, but she did not receive any reply from Ji Tianxing. Until the second night, she paced back and forth in the study for a long time. Finally, she could not hold back the anger in her heart. "Damn you, you don't even have the slightest bit of magnanimity. You don't even reply to my message? I have already given you a way out, but you are not willing to back down. You even want to embarrass me? Humph! This emperor wants to see just how arrogant you are." Lu Baishuang muttered angrily. She took out another communication jade slip and prepared to send a message to Ji Tianxing. However, at this moment another maid walked into the study. She cupped her hands and reporting to the Holy Emperor, "There is news from Heavenly Lion Pass. Deputy Commander-in-Chief Ji has just gathered 200,000 troops and charged out of Heavenly Lion Pass at night to attack Luo Ying Valley." "What?" Lu Baishuang was stunned. She crushed the communication jade slip in her hand. Her eyes were filled with shock. "Damn bastard, he actually went to attack Luo Ying Valley again? That is the gate of the Devil Race's camp. It is the most heavily guarded area. Once he passes through Luo Ying Valley, there is a plain 8,000 miles behind him. There are millions of Devil Race troops stationed there. Even I do not dare to attack Luo Ying Valley with my troop. How dare he be so arrogant? The defense of Luoying Valley is stronger than Shifeng Mountain. There are more than twice as many troops stationed there. How dare he be so careless? Lu Baishuang's heart was burning with worry. She immediately wanted to send a message to Ji Tianxing to immediately return to Heavenly Lion Pass. However, the maid continued to report, "Holy Emperor, this message was secretly sent by the general guarding Heavenly Lion Pass. Deputy Commander-in-Chief Ji has been hiding it. He did not intend to report it to you at all." Lu Baishuang was so angry that her pretty face turned pale. She angrily slammed the table and shouted coldly, "Bastard! I am the Commander-in-Chief of the 3 armies. How dare he hide it from me and act on his own? This is too ridiculous. Even if he had just won a battle, he would not dare to advance so rashly. This is simply sending 200,000 soldiers to their death. He is too crazy. No, I cannot let him continue to fool around. I must return to Heavenly Lion Pass to take charge." As she spoke, Lu Baishuang straightened her skirt and was about to walk out of the door. The maid hurriedly stopped her and explained, "Holy Emperor, please calm down. When General Xie Wen and General Zhong Lin sent this message, they specifically said that Ji Tianxing has planned this well. With Lord Ji's meticulous planning, there will definitely be a pleasant surprise. Holy Emperor, please do not make a fuss and do not stop Ji Tianxing's decision. Otherwise, Ji Tianxing will leave Heavenly Lion Pass and join the other Commander-in-Chief's command." Lu Baishuang immediately stopped in her tracks. She did not know whether to laugh or cry. "Ha ha! I am the Commander-in-Chief. Do I have no right to interfere with the Deputy Commander-in-Chief's plan? Damn Ji Tianxing! He is so arrogant. He does not put me in his eyes at all. He has gone too far. No matter if he succeeds or fails tonight, I will not let him off easily." After a long time, Lu Baishuang's anger dissipated. She waved her hand and dismissed the maid. She walked out of the study alone and quietly left White Mountain City. Even if Ji Tianxing was dissatisfied and even teased her again, she could not care less. She only wanted to return to Heavenly Lion Pass and personally monitor Ji Tianxing. She would not let him do such a crazy thing again. However, it would take her at least 12 hours to rush back to Heavenly Lion Pass from White Mountain City. By the time she reached Heavenly Lion Pass, the sky would be bright. At that time, the battle would be over and everything would be settled. Lu Baishuang prayed in her heart as she hurried back. "Ji Tianxing, ah Ji Tianxing. Although you are despicable, you are still a rare talent. It is just that you are too arrogant. You have to suffer some losses to learn your lesson." Chapter 2083. When Lu Baishuang arrived at Sky Lion Pass, it was already early in the morning. The sun rose from the east, and a thin mist and frost shrouded the pass. The world was cold and clear. After arriving at Sky Lion Pass, she had just landed on the peak of the mountain on the west side. She didn't have time to ask a general about the situation. All of a sudden, she saw a dazzling golden light coming from 100 miles away from the pass. The golden light was as fast as lightning. After a few breaths, it crossed the distance of 100 miles and arrived above Sky Lion Pass. Swoosh! The golden light landed on the peak of the mountain on the west side, on a square not far from Lu Baishuang. After the golden light faded, a handsome and tall figure appeared. It was a handsome young man in a white robe with long hair draped over his shoulders. His face was handsome and resolute, with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. His whole body exuded a mysterious and noble aura, as if he was connected to heaven and earth. His white robe was tattered in many places and stained with blood. The blood had already dried and turned dark red, making him look particularly miserable. There was no doubt that he must have experienced a fierce and bloody battle. He held a black sword in his hand and stood there with a dignified appearance, looking around with sharp eyes. His expression and aura were very calm, but when he suddenly glanced at Lu Baishuang not far away, he couldn't help but be startled and frowned slightly. Then, his face became pale, and his breathing became a little chaotic. His expression was also full of fatigue. He staggered and walked straight to Lu Baishuang. Lu Baishuang saw his appearance and her heart suddenly tightened. She quickly went to greet him. Ji Tianxing, why did you come back alone? Lu Baishuang rushed to him and stretched out her hands to support him. She asked anxiously, how was the battle last night? Where are the other generals and soldiers? Why didn't they come back with you? Ji Tianxing looked weak and powerless. He held Lu Baishuang's wrist tightly with both of his hands. His voice was hoarse and dry as he said with a bitter smile, my life was at stake. I could only run away, but Shuai was lucky to escape alive. After all, I am a rare genius. How could I die on the battlefield? That would be the loss of the human race. Lu Baishuang frowned when he heard this, and in his heart, he cursed this narcissist. However, seeing that the situation was urgent, she didn't want to argue with Ji Tianxing. She asked anxiously, Ji Tianxing, speak clearly, what exactly happened? Why did you come back alone? Could it be that our army suffered a crushing defeat in the Battle of Luo Ying Valley? Ji Tianxing looked at her with dim eyes and nodded weakly. Seeing his reaction, Lu Baishuang felt as if he had been struck by lightning. His eyes filled with disappointment. As expected. I didn't guess wrongly. Ji Tianxing, you are arrogant and reckless. You actually brought 200,000 soldiers to attack Luo Ying Valley. This was a taboo in the army. It was stupid to the extreme. Now 200,000 soldiers had died in battle. Who knew how many of them would be able to escape? As the deputy commander, not only did you not defend to the end, you even fled back to the Heavenly Lion Pass. Ji Tianxing, you have really disappointed me. Lu Baishuang glared at Ji Tianxing, pointed at his nose and scolded, you won the battle earlier. In your arrogance, you rashly attacked Luo Ying Valley, causing the army to suffer a crushing defeat. I am magnanimous and can forgive your recklessness. I won't pursue your mistakes. However, as the commander of an army, how could you ignore your soldiers and escape alone? This is simply too shameful. No general should make such a stupid mistake. Ji Tianxing was scolded harshly by her, but he wasn't angry. With an indifferent expression, he waved his hand and said, Lu Baishuang, don't be so angry. Victory and defeat are common in war. It's not a big deal that 200,000 soldiers died. Isn't Ben Shuai still alive? Don't you still have over 2,700,000 soldiers? When Ben Shuai recovers from his injuries, he will lead the army again. He will definitely destroy the demon camp in one fell swoop and wipe out the million-demon army. Ji Tianxing patted his chest confidently, as if he was making a solemn vow. However, when Lu Baishuang saw his attitude, she was even more disappointed and angry. She scolded, Ji Tianxing, you bastard, when are you going to wake up? Can't you restrain yourself a little? Don't be so lawless, arrogant and conceited, okay? We are dealing with the demon race. They are the most terrifying race on the continent. Can't you be a little more careful? You have already made such a big mistake. The entire army will blame you. However, I will help you suppress this matter and let you recover in peace. I will not allow the soldiers to criticize you. Don't say any more. Quickly go back and recover. I will personally take care of the following matters. Ji Tianxing looked at her in a daze, his eyes filled with emotion. He was silent for a long time before he suddenly said something. Lu Baishuang, on the surface, you are fiercely scolding me, but in fact, you can't bear to see me suffer. Even if I made a big mistake, you are still so tolerant of me, and even help me deal with the future. I am now more and more convinced that it is my elegant demeanor and charm that has conquered your heart. Pooh! Lu Baishuang was already angry. Suddenly hearing Ji Tianxing talk nonsense, she was so angry that she almost vomited blood. Bastard! You shut up for me! Lu Baishuang angrily glared at him, pointing to the palace not far away and scolded, You narcissist, go back and recover. I don't want to see you again. Ji Tianxing was still looking at her with a smile on his face. He sighed with emotion and said, "Look, your every word and action has revealed your true feelings. You are so angry that you almost vomited blood, but you are not willing to hurt me. You even urged me to recover. This is such a deep and reserved love." Lu Baishuang was trembling with anger. She glared at him coldly and shouted, "Get out now! Immediately! Immediately!" Ji Tianxing smiled and nodded. Yes, I have to recover as soon as possible, so you don't have to worry about me." Lu Baishuang was no longer willing to listen to him. She reached out and grabbed him by the collar, throwing him to the palace 1,000 feet away. Swish! A golden light wrapped around Ji Tianxing, flew across the sky 1,000 feet away, and landed in the palace. Lu Baishuang stood in the same place, still angry. It was obvious that her anger had not subsided. Not long after, a bell suddenly sounded at the edge of the square, and many scouts flew into the sky, shouting themselves hoarse. "Victory! Victory! Last night, we won a great victory in Luoying Valley." Shouts resounded through the sky, and soon spread throughout Heavenly Lion Pass. The 1,000,000 soldiers were excited, and all of them cheered excitedly, talking enthusiastically. Lu Baishuang was stunned in the square, and her face was full of confusion. She turned her head to look at the outside of the pass and saw a majestic troop, bringing along billowing clouds of dust as they dashed towards her. It was an army of more than 100,000 people. They were dressed like human soldiers, and the flag they held was also the flag of the Baishuang Empire. Suddenly seeing this scene, Lu Baishuang's body suddenly stiffened. Chapter 2084. Obviously, Lu Baishuang had been tricked by Ji Tianxing again. Ever since she received news that Ji Tianxing had led troops to attack Luoying Valley, she was sure that Ji Tianxing would be defeated. She rushed back to Heavenly Lion Pass anxiously and saw that Ji Tianxing had returned alone, his whole body covered in blood. Her preconceived notion made her even more certain that Ji Tianxing had been defeated and had returned. In addition, Ji Tianxing's face was pale and his breathing was weak, as if he had been seriously injured. Lu Baishuang no longer had any doubts. She was heartbroken but could not bear to be too harsh on him. But in the end, she had been tricked. In the Battle of Luoying Valley last night, Ji Tianxing had won a complete victory. Lu Baishuang immediately understood that Ji Tianxing's weak and injured appearance was all an act. The purplish-black blood on his body was not his own, but the blood of the devil race soldiers. Despicable bastard! When he saw me return to Heavenly Lion Pass, he guessed my thoughts. Therefore, he purposely pretended to be defeated to test my reaction. In the end, I was careless and was deceived by him. I even comforted him with good intentions. When he heard that, he must have thought that it was funny and thought that I was extremely stupid. Too despicable. Lu Baishuang clenched her fists and stomped her feet in anger. She could not wait to beat Ji Tianxing up. At this moment, 2 generals covered in blood rushed over from afar. These 2 were Xie Wen and Zhong Lin. The 2 of them excitedly came to Lu Baishuang and bowed emotionally. They reporting to Saint Emperor, "Our army has won a complete victory and captured Luoying Valley. Saint Emperor, Deputy Commander Ji's military skills are godly and his bravery is unparalleled. Not only did he capture Luoying Valley, he also annihilated more than 700,000 devil race soldiers." The 2 of them were so excited that they did not care about Lu Baishuang's strange expression and reported the situation of the battle to themselves. Lord Saint Emperor, Vice Marshal Ji has only been in office for 3 days, yet he has already achieved 2 great victories in a row. No, he is truly a rare talent in the world, no, a war god. Now that Chifeng Mountain and Luoying Valley have been captured by our army, 2 gaps have been dug out in the demon army's defensive line. It is already in imminent danger. The demon camp was in a state of panic, but the morale of our soldiers was like a rainbow. With Deputy Commander Ji leading the army, Victory is just around the corner. Lu Baishuang gradually calmed down, suppressed the anger in his heart, and showed a gratified smile. Even if she was angry with Ji Tianxing, she couldn't deny Ji Tianxing's contribution. When Xie Wen and Zhong Lin talked about Ji Tianxing, their faces were full of worship and reverence. This made Lu Baishuang very curious. How did Ji Tianxing do it? She waved her hand and asked Xie Wen and Zhong Lin, "Generals, you followed Deputy Commander Ji into the battle last night. You should know what happened. Why don't you report it in detail? He only brought 200,000 soldiers. How could he possibly take down Luoying Valley? It's even more impossible to annihilate the 700,000 demon army." Xie Wen hurriedly explained, "Lord Saint Emperor, you may not know. On the surface, Deputy Commander Ji only gathered 200,000 soldiers, led by General Zhong Lin and me. But in reality, Ji Tianxing had secretly dispatched 500,000 soldiers the night before, lying in ambush in the mountain range to the side of Luoying Valley. Although the defenses of Luoying Valley were tight, Deputy Commander Ji was the first to arrive and secretly infiltrated the demon camp. He personally took action, and with mysterious means, assassinated a deputy commander, 2 demon monarchs, and more than a dozen demon generals. When the demon camp fell into chaos, he created chaos everywhere, slaughtering a large number of elite experts and destroying several defensive formations. Zhong Lin followed up and explained, "General Xie and I have been waiting for news outside Luoying Valley. When the demon camp fell into chaos and the defensive formations were destroyed, we received Deputy Commander Ji's orders and killed our way in. The other 5 generals led 500,000 soldiers and attacked the demon camp from 2 sides. We attacked the devil camp from 3 sides and beat the devil army into a sorry state. Before setting out, Deputy Commander Ji secretly gathered the 5 generals and distributed dozens of talismans. When attacking the demon camp, these talismans played a crucial role. Not only did they slaughter a large number of demon soldiers, they also destroyed the demon camp's defensive fortifications and formations. The battle lasted for half the night, and in the end, only 80,000 of our army died and 100,000 were injured. But the demon camp was destroyed, and the 700,000 demon army was killed. Only 200,000 were left, and they fled in a sorry state." Xie Wen and Zhong Lin spoke in great detail. They were beaming with joy as they spoke. Their faces were filled with excitement. It was obvious that the battle last night had been fought so beautifully that they were still in awe of it and often reminisced about it. Lu Baishuang was also attracted, imagining the corresponding scene in his mind. He felt refreshed and satisfied. All along, the demon army has been tyrannical, invading divine nations' territory without any scruples, but no one can stop them. Our soldiers have always been suppressed by the demon army, and we have no ability to fight them head-on. Even if it was a decisive battle on the battlefield, the result was always to kill 800 of the enemy and lose 1,000 of our own. Who would have thought that Ji Tianxing would create such a miracle? It is simply inconceivable." Speaking of this, Lu Baishuang's mind suddenly had a question, and he asked, "That's right, what talismans did Ji Tianxing secretly distribute? Does it have such a powerful effect?" Xie Wen cupped his hands and replied, "Reporting to Lord Saint Emperor, this talisman was personally refined by Deputy Commander Ji. It contains heavenly lightning, astral fire, and divine star fire. Deputy Commander Ji said that although the talisman's grade is not high, only tribulation level, it can be used by tribulation level powerhouses. But the heavenly lightning, astral fire, and divine star fire are the most powerful and can restrain the demon's power." Lu Baishuang suddenly frowned and thought to himself, heavenly lightning, astral fire, and divine star fire? These 3 extraordinary powers, ordinary martial saints can't control them. He can control them freely and even refine them into talismans? This guy, not only does he have the strength of a martial saint, but he is also one of the best martial saints. Thinking of this, she felt that she didn't know enough about Ji Tianxing. Of course, the more she knew about Ji Tianxing, the more shocked she was. She was more and more curious about Ji Tianxing, and wanted to know his secrets. How many tricks does this monstrous guy have that he hasn't used yet? After a moment of silence, Lu Baishuang came back to her senses, and waved her hand and ordered, "Xiewen, Zhonglin, the two of you have returned victorious, go and recuperate as soon as possible. This time, you have made a great contribution, and this emperor will reward you heavily. In addition, the two of you are Deputy Commander Ji's assistants, and you must do your best. In the future, his orders are equivalent to this emperor's orders." Xiewen and Zhonglin looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. For Lu Baishuang to say such words, it was clear that she completely trusted Ji Tianxing and thought highly of him. Chapter 2085. After Xiewen and Zhonglin bowed and left, Lu Baishuang was stunned for a moment. After hearing the details of the battle at Luoying Valley, the anger in her heart dissipated a lot. It was because she could imagine how much risk Ji Tianxing had taken and how much effort he had put in to kill the enemy's general. No matter how strong an individual was, no one dared to sneak into an army of millions and assassinate the enemy general alone. The slightest carelessness would result in death. In the past, no matter how loyal and brave the right deputy general was, he would not have dared to make such a sacrifice. As for the left deputy general Yu Fu, he was even more afraid of death and would not have such fearless courage. But Ji Tianxing had done it. He had just arrived and did not have any feelings for the empire of Baishuang, but he was willing to make such a sacrifice. Lu Baishuang thought about it carefully and felt guilty. Sigh. Although this guy's mouth is annoying, he is a brave and heroic person with extraordinary courage and strategy. It is the empire of Baishuang's good fortune that he can come to Heavenly Lion Pass to lead the army. This emperor is the holy emperor of a country. How can I lower myself to his level? After making up her mind, she walked towards the general's palace to talk to Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing had made such a great contribution, of course she had to reward and commend him. Lu Baishuang had just stepped into the meeting hall when she saw Ji Tianxing standing on the sand table with his head bowed and thinking about something. He stood there motionless, his brows furrowed and his eyes fixed on the sand table. He did not notice Lu Baishuang's arrival at all. Lu Baishuang walked to his side and looked at his face. She could not help but sigh in her heart. This guy only looks annoying on the surface, but in fact, he is more serious than anyone else. He works harder than anyone else. He just fought a big battle and did not rest after returning. He is still worried about the battle situation. Looking at him carefully, his serious look is really admirable. Just as Lu Baishuang was thinking to herself, Ji Tianxing came back to his senses and glanced at her. He said unhappily, "Why are you walking without making any sound? Why did you sneak over?" Lu Baishuang wanted to explain, but seeing his expression and tone, there was a hint of disdain in his tone. Suddenly, anger welled up in his heart. "Ji Tianxing, I am the commander-in-chief of the 3 armies. What's wrong with me coming to the conference hall? Furthermore, you won a great victory last night. As the commander, I have to reward you and reward you." Yi Xiao thought. "Looking at your reaction now, I guess you don't want to accept it?" Ji Tianxing smiled and said warmly, "Lord Saint Emperor, you must be joking. The soldiers have won the battle, so of course they have to be rewarded. As for me, I don't care about fame and worldly possessions. As for the rewards for the soldiers, I have already written them down in the book. You can distribute them accordingly and reward them a little more." Finished speaking, he took out a military book from his sleeve and threw it to Lu Baishuang. Lu Baishuang opened it and his face immediately changed. The 7 generals who participated in the battle were each rewarded with 20 million spirit stones and 2 pieces of supreme-level magical equipment. Even the hundreds of commanders could receive 8 million spirit stones worth of resources. They were also given a military merit and a title of Lord of the Empire? Lu Baishuang slammed the book shut and glared at Ji Tianxing. He shouted angrily, "You are simply messing around. Do you think the Empire's treasury is an inexhaustible treasure mountain? It is gratifying to win the battle, but how can you reward so wantonly? You must know that this reward is 5 times more than usual. If you continue to do this, the treasury will soon be empty." Ji Tianxing was neither angry nor anxious. He smiled and said, "Baishuang, calm down first. Don't be so short-sighted. If the army can't win the battle, and the empire of Baishuang is conquered by the demon army, it will be useless even if you are the richest in the world. As the saying goes, when there is a great reward, there will be brave men. Only by doubling the rewards can the soldiers fight for the empire without hesitation. Even if the treasury is emptied, so what? As long as we can defeat the demon army and repel the demon army, everything will be worth it." Lu Baishuang stared at him and suddenly revealed an expression of realization. "Humph. I was wondering why you suddenly became so gentle and pleasant to this emperor. So, you want me to bleed and reward the soldiers who have performed meritorious service." Ji Tianxing didn't hide it and said with a smile, "Holy Emperor Baishuang is indeed very intelligent. That's right. The soldiers worked hard for you and won the battle. Don't tell me you shouldn't reward them? These resources and treasures, you can't expect me to pay for them out of my own pocket, right?" Lu Baishuang was even more angry. He pointed at him and said, You are a martial saint of a generation, respected as the god of war by the soldiers. How can you be so calculative? Those cultivation resources are nothing to you, and you still want to scheme against this emperor." Ji Tianxing waved his hand and said, "Don't flatter me. I don't buy it. I am very poor now. How can I have extra resources to reward the soldiers? Anyway, I promised generous rewards before the battle. That's why the soldiers work so hard. If you embezzle the rewards and make the soldiers unhappy, I won't help you out. At that time, I will push all the blame to you. Let's see what you can do." Lu Baishuang was so angry that his body trembled. He glared at him and shouted, "Good Ji Tianxing, you are shameless to the extreme. Thank you for your praise, Lord Holy Emperor." Ji Tianxing smiled as he cupped his hands and replied indifferently. Lu Baishuang couldn't stay any longer and turned to leave angrily. Of course, she didn't forget the military merit book and kept it quietly. After leaving the commander's palace, Lu Baishuang sulked for a long time. "Damn Ji Tianxing, you want to use the same trick again to drive this emperor away. This emperor saw through your scheme long ago. This time, I won't fall for it. This emperor will stay in Sky Lion Pass and personally watch over you. Let's see what kind of trouble you can cause." Thinking of this, Lu Baishuang calmed down a lot and started to do business. She wrote a decree and asked the National Treasury to send resources to Sky Lion Pass to reward the soldiers. After writing the decree, she was about to send it out. However, she remembered what Ji Tianxing said before. "I am very poor now. How can I have extra resources to give to the soldiers?" Thinking of this sentence, Lu Baishuang suddenly hesitated and muttered, "The dignified eldest disciple of Luotian Mountain, the most valued god's disciple. How can you lack cultivation resources? Humph! This emperor has a kind heart, so I won't argue with you." Thus, she added another line to the edict. 3 days passed quickly. Early in the morning, Lu Baishuang gathered all the generals and commanders in the square at the top of the mountain to reward them in public. Every general and commander who made a contribution received a generous reward. Only Ji Tianxing didn't come and didn't receive any reward. After the reward ceremony was over, the generals left in high spirits. Chapter 2086. Ji Tianxing was meditating in the secret chamber. He had been fighting for the past few days and his mind was tired. However, it had also allowed him to train and strengthen his martial arts foundation. His strength was also increasing. He could feel that he was not far from breaking through to the martial sage realm. At that moment, Xie Wen's voice sounded from outside the secret chamber. Reporting to Deputy Commander Ji, this general has something to report. Ji Tianxing opened his eyes and waved his hand to release a ray of golden light to open the door to the secret chamber. Xie Wen, who was dressed in martial attire, walked in with steady steps. He came in front of Ji Tianxing and took out a black infinite space ring. He reported, "Deputy Commander Ji, Lord Sage Emperor has gathered all the meritorious officials and held a reward ceremony in the square. All the generals who performed meritorious deeds have received the rewards you promised. Everyone can't believe it, but they are very excited and grateful to you. Although Lord Sage Emperor didn't announce any rewards in public. However, Lord Sage Emperor has asked me to give you this infinite space ring." "Oh? She has prepared a gift for Ben Shuai?" Ji Tianxing raised his eyebrows and smiled playfully. He took the ring and used his spiritual consciousness to check it. The infinite space ring was filled with cultivation resources, and upper spiritual stones were piled up like a mountain. There were thousands of bottles of elixir pills, hundreds of talismans, and various materials. It was a rich collection. A rough estimate put the value of the cultivation resources at over 100 million. Ji Tianxing played with the infinite space ring and smiled. Women are emotional. Even if I purposely angered her, she didn't hold it against Ben Shuai. This marshal only said a few unintentional words, but she remembered it in her heart and even specially gave me a big gift. Xie Wen hesitated for a while before he cupped his hands and said, "Deputy Commander Ji, I have something to tell you." Ji Tianxing nodded and said, "It's okay to be frank." Xie Wen mustered up his courage and said, "Lord Sage Emperor is the only female emperor in the Holy Kingdom. She is also the youngest Sage Emperor. It was not easy for her to come this far and support the entire kingdom. Although she looked cold and dignified, she was actually kind and benevolent. If that were not the case, this general and all the other generals and ministers would not be so supportive of the Saint Emperor. If you have any ideas or plans, feel free to tell the Saint Emperor. She will definitely understand. Why did you deliberately provoke her? You know that Lord Saint Emperor is good to you, so why do you keep hurting her?" Ji Tianxing was silent for a moment before he shook his head with a bitter smile. "There are some things that she won't understand even if I tell her. You won't understand either. Ben Shuai was only here to carry out his mission. In 2 months at most, he would be able to repel the demon army and leave this place. From now on, Ben Shuai will almost never come into contact with her again. Why should we complicate matters?" Xie Wen looked as if he understood something. He asked carefully, "General Ji, are you saying you're afraid that the Holy Emperor will develop feelings for you after spending some time with you?" Ji Tianxing smiled and shook his head. "It might not be feelings. It could be appreciation or closeness. But no matter what it is, Ben Shuai doesn't want to get involved. It will only harm her. Since she is the Empress and sits in this position, she can't have feelings. She can't even be good friends with men. If she has feelings for others, she will definitely be heartless to her people. After a long time, it will harm the empire of Whitefrost. Ben Shuai has once wronged many people. In this life, he only wants to make up for his regrets. He doesn't want to be involved in any more karma." Xie Wen was confused. He couldn't help but scratch his head and smile awkwardly. "General Ji, this general is slow-witted. I don't understand what you mean. This general has said too much. This general will take his leave." Ji Tianxing raised his hand to stop him. "Ben Shuai put you in charge of gathering information. What's the result? Has the demon army made any movements?" Xie Wen quickly replied, reporting to General Ji, "The scout camp has done all they can to monitor the demon army's movements. We've received a lot of information in the past 3 days. The truth is just as you expected. The demon army's defense line has suffered heavy losses. You also killed the deputy general. Now, the morale of the demon army has fallen. However, they still have 2 million soldiers. It's impossible for them to give up on attacking Heavenly Lion Pass. They have elected a new deputy general to continue managing the military affairs. Now, the 2 million demon army has retreated 1,000 miles. They are divided into 4 camps to form a defensive line. According to this general's guess, they won't be able to counterattack in the near future. It's more likely that they are pulling back their defenses and trying to stay in a stalemate with us. Ji Tianxing thought for a moment, then revealed a cold smile. The deputy general and the top demon generals have been killed. Now, only a few defeated soldiers are left. Of course, they will be holed up in the fort. If they want to break through and turn defeat into victory, they can only seek the help of saint-level experts. Only saint-level experts can kill me, the deputy general, and resolve the demon army's troubles. Xiewen quickly cupped his hands and said, General Ji, please don't worry. This general has already passed down the order. Heavenly Lion Pass will be doubly guarded. The demon assassins will definitely not be able to sneak in and harm you. These are all useless. Ji Tianxing waved his hand and said, Only demon saints can kill me. How can you stop them? You only need to guard against the demon army's assassins or the blood god's scions. 2 days later, Ben Shuai will give the demon army a heavy blow and further weaken their strength. When the demon army's reinforcements arrive, Ben Shuai will fight the demon saints and completely defeat the demon army. In less than half a month, the outcome will be revealed. Xiewen's body shook. He exclaimed in disbelief, So fast! You won't understand even if I tell you. Leave. Ji Tianxing did not explain. He waved his hand and dismissed Xiewen. Xiewen bowed and left the secret room. After he left, Ji Tianxing clenched his fists, and a cold look appeared on his face. Ancestor Demon God, you're holed up in the Blood Sea abyss. Even the Luo Shui clone can't do anything to you. I think you'll recover your deity realm soon. But you're still alone. I'll lure the demon saints under your command one by one and cut off your left and right arms. Let's see how you'll stir up trouble then. After I break through to Martial Saint, I'll personally kill my way into North Underworld Mountain and teach you the most painful lesson. Very quickly, 2 days passed. In the middle of the night, Ji Tianxing led his 200,000 elite soldiers to attack. This time, his target was not the stronghold or the demon army camp. Instead, it was the military camp at the rear. The demon army's rations and military equipment were stored there. There were also more than 300,000 injured demon army soldiers recuperating there. Ji Tianxing led the army and circled thousands of miles before arriving at the military camp. He used the same strategy as before. He sneaked into the camp alone and assassinated the demon army's generals and experts. He created chaos and disaster and destroyed the defensive formation. When the demon army camp was in chaos, the 200,000 elite soldiers would take the opportunity to kill their way in. Naturally, they would be victorious. In any case, Ji Tianxing was sure that there was no demon saint expert in the demon army camp. With his strength and methods, he was in an invincible position. He could do whatever he wanted. No one could stop him. Chapter 2087. The Devil Race's military camp outside the pass had been wiped out by Ji Tianxing. The military equipment and cultivation resources stored there could only be used by the demons, so Ji Tianxing destroyed them all. The 300,000-some injured demon race soldiers were also wiped out. This battle dealt too great of a blow to the demons' morale, cutting off their path of retreat. The remaining 2 million-strong demon race army was plunged into fear and despair. Without a commander and a large number of experts, without resources and reinforcements, how could they fight this battle? Seeing that the time was right, Ji Tianxing quickened his pace of attack, preparing to end the battle quickly. For 10 days, the flames of war burned incessantly outside Heavenly Lion Pass. Every 2 or 3 days, reports of victory would come from outside the pass. Ji Tianqing swept through the entire battlefield in an invincible manner. He took down 2 devil race camps and 4 checkpoints in succession. The demon race suffered innumerable casualties, losing more than 1,200,000 men. 10 days later, the demon race only had 700,000 some soldiers left, defending Flowing River Valley and Mount Flying Bear. The human soldiers were also exhausted and needed to rest and recuperate. With the battle developing to this point, the demons' defeat was already a foregone conclusion. Even if Ji Tianqing withdrew now, the demons would not be able to turn the tide, much less charge into Heavenly Lion Pass. But Ji Tianqing would not leave now. His goal had not been achieved. He ordered the soldiers to rest in Heavenly Lion Pass for 3 days. 3 days later, he would lead the army to attack Flowing River Valley and completely crush the demon race army. Mount Flying Bear had 300,000 some demon soldiers garrisoned there, while Flowing River Valley had 400,000. As long as he could take Flowing River Valley and kill those 400,000 some demon soldiers, this battle would be over. The 300,000 some demon soldiers on Mount Flying Bear would definitely flee in defeat. After the news spread, Heavenly Lion Pass was filled with jubilation. The million soldiers were overjoyed, their hearts filled with anticipation. At the same time, the scouts and scouts of the demon race also heard the news. Flowing River Valley was extremely tense, the atmosphere extremely grave. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. On the morning of the 4th day, Ji Tianqing gathered 5 generals and over 100 commanders and set off with 500,000 elite soldiers. Before they set out for battle, Liu Baishuang personally sent the soldiers off and even had a private conversation with Ji Tianqing. In this half a month, Liu Baishuang had been guarding Sky Lion Pass and had not left. Even if Ji Tianqing deliberately angered her and used words to squeeze her, she refused to leave. In any case, she was determined to stay in the Heavenly Lion Pass and personally supervise Ji Tianqing. Later, Ji Tianqing saw that she was very stubborn, so he stopped bickering with her. He wholeheartedly threw himself into the battle. Apart from resting and recuperating, he was also discussing important military matters with his generals. He was too lazy to talk to Liu Baishuang. Liu Baishuang, however, pretended not to notice his coldness. Every day, he stayed by his side, watching him handle military affairs and discuss strategy with the generals. Most of the time, she would remain silent and watch Ji Tianqing quietly. Only at crucial moments would she open her mouth to say a few words, but they were all very important and decisive. The relationship between the two of them became very subtle and could not be described in words. Xiewen, Zhonglin, and a few other generals could vaguely see the signs, but they did not dare to show it. They could only discuss it in private. On one side was the owner of the Empire of White Frost, the only empress in the God Kingdom, the most respected Holy Emperor. On the other hand, there was a valiant and victorious demon, the god of war that the generals worshipped the most. In the hearts of all the generals, they also hoped that the two of them would create some sparks and form a good marriage. After all, if these 2 experts were to be together, the future of the Empire of White Frost would be limitless. However, they could only think about it. No one dared to say it out loud. Now, Ji Tianqing was leading 500,000 elite soldiers to the Manchuan Valley, while Liu Baishuang stayed behind to guard Sky Lion Pass. She stood on the tower at the peak of the mountain and watched Ji Tianqing's back disappear into the distance. Her expression gradually became gloomy. A faint look of disappointment flashed across her bright and clear eyes. This was because she knew that with Ji Tianqing's ability, he would definitely win this battle. After Ji Tianqing's triumphant return, the crisis of Sky Lion Pass would be resolved, and he would also leave. It had been less than a month since Ji Tianqing came to Sky Lion Pass. Liu Baishuang had just gotten close to him and trusted him. Before she could have a deeper understanding of him, he was leaving. This made Liu Baishuang feel a trace of regret in her heart that could not be erased. At dusk, the sky was filled with gray clouds and the world was dark. Outside the Manchuan Valley, there were desolate mountain ranges in all directions. Above the mountainside there was snow and ice. The deep and wide valley was enveloped by a huge blood-colored barrier. It was a light shield with a radius of 200 miles. Only a saint-level array could achieve such an effect. As early as half a year ago, when the demon army had occupied this place, they had set up a saint-level array here to protect the demon army's camp. Now, the 400,000 demon soldiers in the camp were all in a state of panic, unable to sit or stand still. The patrolling guards inside and outside the array were more than 3 times as many as before. Hundreds of defensive arrays had been added in various parts of the camp, and dozens of fortifications had been built. The entire Manchuan Valley camp was in a state of extreme alert. At this time, Ji Tianxing arrived with 500,000 elite soldiers. Under his command, 5 generals each led 100,000 elite soldiers and hid in the surroundings of the Manchuan Valley. He acted alone, entering the Manchuan Valley in an invisible state. It was the same old method. He used the armillary heaven's secret art, and his figure and aura merged with heaven and earth. After silently entering the Manchuan Valley, he spent an hour to break the saint-level array. Then, he flew across the gloomy sky and arrived above the camp, silently investigating the situation. Although demon qi lingered in the camp, and defensive arrays were everywhere. But under the probing of his divine sense, those demon army soldiers hiding in the camps and arrays had nowhere to hide. He quickly saw that the 9 camps distributed in the outer ring of the valley were all ordinary demon army soldiers. Many demon generals lived in a palace built of black stone in the center, but their positions were not high and their strength was very ordinary. Only the 3 lofty black palaces in the center had 20-some tribulation transcending realm demon experts, all of them generals of the demon lord. Upon seeing this situation, Ji Tianxing couldn't help but frown, a hint of confusion flashing through his eyes. Logically speaking, I've already fought for 20-some days, taken down so many forts and checkpoints, and slaughtered so many demon army soldiers. The demons should have sent word long ago, and the demon saint experts should have arrived. 3 days ago, I sent word that I was going to attack the Manchuan Valley, so the demons should have known. Otherwise, the demon camp's defenses wouldn't have been strengthened by 3 times. But why hasn't that demon saint expert appeared? There isn't even a shred of the qi of a saint-level expert in the camp. Everything had developed according to Ji Tianxing's predictions.